Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. Marvel's Planeswalkers. Chapter 21. Chapter 21 didn't lose face in another world. On the first day after he could use the portal skillfully, Mordo carried Li Feng, who was lying on the bed, by the neck like a chicken and walked straight to the practice room for practicing the mirror space. Mordo put his hands behind his back, glanced at Li Feng who was opening his innocent eyes, and muttered with a twitch of his mouth, "This is the first time I have seen such a lazy mage. Who would be lazy after knowing that they can practice magic? What about you? I can tolerate that you eat more than a pig. After all, casting spells also consumes a lot of energy, and food can restore your energy very well. But you obviously sleep as soon as the sun sets, and you don't get up until the sun rises to the sky. What does it mean? If you want to waste your talent, just say it directly. If it weren't for Master Guyi's order, I wouldn't bother to pay attention to you. You also want me to squeeze out the time I spend practicing magic to teach you. Do you really think I have nothing to do?" Mordo was getting angrier and angrier as he thought about it. His tone was obviously unhappy. He said, "The end of the portal training does not mean that your magic practice is over. Now, use your mirror space and let me see how much talent the some talent mentioned by Ancient One is." Li Feng said that he was innocent. Last night, his spirit was a little fascinated by reading alchemy books in Merlin's magic ring. He forgot the time and failed to return to his body in time to rest, which led to oversleeping in the morning. But he shouldn't be blamed. After all, it is normal for most people to stay up late to read a book they are interested in. Besides, he didn't stay up late on purpose, he just forgot the time. Li Feng stood up straight and pouted. He knew that no matter how he refuted, Mordo would not care. Mordo only cared about when he could play the mirror space. As long as he played the mirror space as fancy as the portal, Mordo would not care how long I slept. Li Feng silently thought about how he should spend his time when Mordo would no longer care about him in the future, while posing to release the mirror space. Slow casting and much waste of mana are not to be mentioned, but the size of the space in your mirror space. Mordo shook his head and muttered about where Li Feng failed to cast spells, and said, "Is this your mirror space? Why do I feel like it's a glass shard space? Not to mention the space that breaks at the touch, is the space inside too big? It's enough for an ant to jog around in 1 minute." Li Feng poked his head to check his mirror space, and pouted inwardly and retorted, "At least there are 3 square meters of area, can your ants go around 3 square meters in 1 minute? I'm afraid you don't raise ants, but Hank Pym's old ant-man." Shrugging, Li Feng said innocently, "You are the boss, you say I should practice how I practice." Mordo glanced at Li Feng, stretched out his hand and swung it, and a magic whip appeared in his hand, saying, "Compared to practicing the mirror space, you must first grasp the precise output of mana, and the magic whip is the best practice object. You must convert mana into growth whip, but also need to stabilize the output of mana." Waving the magic whip and making a sound, Mordo continued, "When the mana is unstable, the whip will disappear. Maintaining the unstable mana of the whip will lengthen or shorten the whip." After speaking, Mordo seemed to have anticipated Li Feng's predicament. He took out a book that explained the magic whip in detail and handed it to Li Feng. While walking to the tea table beside him to make tea for himself, he put a baseball in his hand and said, "Now I watch you learn the magic whip. When you learn to use the magic whip and stand 3 meters away to hit the baseball in my hand, we will talk about the mirror space." Li Feng looked at the book in his hand, and then at the baseball in Mordo's hand. For some reason, he always felt that Mordo had a special obsession with baseball, probably he was chased and hit with a baseball before he became a wizard. After Li Feng put his hands together and said amen silently in his heart, he sat cross-legged on the ground and flipped through the book in his hand. When he encountered words that Li Feng did not understand in the book, he turned his head and asked Mordo his doubts. Although the quality of Mordo's teaching is not as good as that of Ancient One, it is still above the standard. At least under Mordo's teaching, Li Feng spent a day to understand the casting process of the magic whip. As for releasing the whip, that is another story of hard practice. Success is equal to 99% sweat, plus the more important 1% talent. Mordo has to admire Li Feng's talent in space magic. Just like constantly asking for advice on space magic and adding his own good talent, Li Feng finally released the mirror space freely after playing with the magic whip for more than half a month. Mordo believes that it took him nearly half a year to successfully release the mirror space perfectly. After all, not everyone has the talent of Doctor Strange, who can understand spells by reading books and studying by himself. Li Feng can't treat the mirror space as a clay toy like Ancient One. He can rotate the space to turn the blue sky above to his feet, and then rotate the building like a kaleidoscope to dazzle people, but he can at least open the mirror space in seconds so that he can hide at any time. A few days later, in Li Feng's mirror space, Mordo's eyes twitched as he watched Li Feng reach out and copy a mirror in the room and fill the entire space, so that he could see his own dark face when he looked down, up, or sideways. Especially after Li Feng slowly rotated the layers of mirrors around him, Mordo felt that he was about to vomit because of his own image in the mirror. In this mirror space where you can see your dark face in front of you even if you close your eyes, fighting is indeed a hassle. And you don't know which mirror Li Feng is hiding behind to peek at you who are dizzy and want to vomit. Mordo reached out to stop Li Feng, and opened a portal while saying, "Don't let the mirror turn in front of me. I feel like I'm about to fall in love with my handsome face. You have already completed the spell casting in the mirror space, and I have nothing else to teach you." As soon as he stepped out of the portal, Mordo turned his head and said to Li Feng who was still hiding behind the mirror, "With your current control over magic power, you can go to Master Hamel to learn how to forge magic tools." After that, Mordo waved at his own portal and closed it. Li Feng scratched his head and walked out from behind the mirror, thinking about Mordo's change in attitude towards him in the past few days. Don't look at Mordo's serious face when he teaches and practices spells, but what he teaches me is all practical stuff, otherwise how can my spell practice progress so fast? Just relying on my talent? Just kidding, without a competent teacher to teach, no matter how good the talent is, it's useless. This is a magic tutorial that can't be found on the internet. Does it mean that under the influence of Ancient One, Mordo went from being indifferent to me to loving me, or does Mordo think that I am a friend worth associating with? Do you really want to be my friend? Touching his chin, Li Feng opened the portal and walked out of the mirror space. He didn't believe that the Ancient One, who was proficient in time magic, would not know about Mordo. During the incident of Caecilius's betrayal of Camartage, he learned that the Ancient One was also using dark energy, and then he escaped and killed the mages from the outside world. But now the Ancient One asked Mordo to teach him painstakingly? Did he want me, who was born with magic power that tended to be dark, to accept Mordo's kindness so that this buddy would know that dark energy is just energy, and that good and bad people have nothing to do with energy? Mordo would be less stimulated after knowing that the Ancient One was also using dark energy, or simply let me, a dark camp mage with whom he had a good relationship, enlighten and comfort Mordo's fragile little heart? The problem is that I don't love Mordo, and who can tell what will happen in the future? Even the Ancient One who can see the future can't tell. Maybe Mordo wants to kill me after knowing that I am using dark magic. Li Feng went to the meditation room of Master Hamel. He knocked on Hamel's door and then shrugged and said to himself, "Who cares? Anyway, I am no match for Mordo now. Even my own magic attributes need to be kept secret from Mordo. I dare not tell Mordo that energy is not good or bad, only users can distinguish between good and bad." Hamel was meditating in the meditation room. He heard the knock on the door. Although he was unhappy about being disturbed in his meditation, he still stood up and opened the door without showing any emotion. Li Feng looked at Hamel, who had no expression on his face, scratched his brow and whispered, "Well, Mordo said I can learn how to forge magic tools from you. Damn, looking at your authentic expressionless face, I always feel like you found out that I stole your materials." Hamel looked at Li Feng seriously, as if he could tell with just one glance how much control Li Feng had over his magic power. After a while, Hamel nodded, stepped aside to let Li Feng walk into the meditation room, and said, "I know you forged a kind of magic playing card before. Take it out and let me see it, so that I can have a preliminary understanding of your craftsmanship." Well, it seems that he really found out that I secretly took a few more materials. Scratching his head, Li Feng handed a magic playing card to Hamel. When Hamel took the playing card, he glanced at Li Feng, pouted his lips to show his disdain, and muttered in his heart, "If Ancient One hadn't known and agreed to you taking the magic materials, I really wanted to slap you to death. You made one of the materials that can make 5 playing cards? You have a talent for wasting materials." Hamel casually threw the card that Li Feng had forged with rough means aside, and walked to his workbench while tidying up the workbench and said, "Master Guyi told me that you wanted to forge a robe and a magic-modified longsword yourself." Hearing that the other party only wanted to teach him how to forge a robe and a magic-modified longsword, and then stopped teaching him alchemy, Li Feng rubbed his hands, with a bit of embarrassment, and looked at Hamel who could operate the workbench skillfully with one hand, and said, if possible, I want to learn everything. Want to learn everything? Haha, I will teach you wholeheartedly when you become a wizard of Camartage, little rookie. Hamel pretended not to hear what Li Feng said, picked up a cretites by himself, and motioned Li Feng to do it himself, and he was only responsible for teaching on the side. As for letting Hamel demonstrate how to forge a robe, he said it was impossible. Didn't you see that he only had one hand? It is not something that a person with healthy limbs should do to let the disabled work for free. What can Li Feng do about this? Fortunately, Li Feng's sewing skills were good. After spending several days, he finally transformed a green tights into a pair of black trousers and sleeveless shirt with a little cleaning function under Hamel's constant advice. Looking at his own achievements, Li Feng's mouth curled up and muttered, I won't be a naked man when I travel through time in the future. At least I didn't lose face in another world. Chapter 22 Leading people through time. The magic clothes worn when traveling through time were taken care of, and the only thing left was naturally a magic sword for self-protection. The magic modification of a long knife is much more difficult than the magic modification of tights. Clothes rely on their own materials to achieve a certain level of defense. All Li Feng has to do is to engrave the spell on the clothes, that's all. The long knife is different. Although the material is suitable for magic modification, Li Feng's craftsmanship is a waste of a good knife and good materials in Hamel's eyes. Take a look at how Li Feng magically modified the long sword. First, he created the fire calling technique to make the molecules of the blade move at high speed to increase the sharpness of the blade. Then what? All that's left is to let the long knife ignite a layer of flames and increase the fire attack. Is that all? In the end, Li Feng picked up his long knife and walked out of the meditation room when Hamel looked like he was in pain or distressed that Li Feng wasted a lot of materials. On the way back to the room, Modu, who was wearing magic equipment, stopped Li Feng, who was holding a long knife and giggling. He glanced at the magic long knife in Li Feng's arms and the black sleeveless shirt Li Feng wore under the mage's cloak, with a look on his face. Sorry, he said, Master Guyi asked you to bring the magic book to her living room. Master is back. Li Feng asked blankly. As for the trace of embarrassment on Modu's face, he didn't notice it at all. Who could make someone's face so dark that he couldn't see his expression clearly? Looking at Modu, who was ready to start a fight, Li Feng took out a matchbox-sized magic book from his pocket and said, Do you know who invaded this world this time? Why do I feel that Ancient Yi is back, but you want to going to the battlefield? Modu obviously knew the truth, so he hesitated for a moment. And considering Guyi's attitude towards Li Feng, the fact that the matter was basically over, and the fact that he had something to ask Li Feng for help, he said, the opponent that Master Guyi encountered this time came from Hell. Although the Hell leader who led the team was killed by Master Guyi, some little loyal devils who are good at hiding took the opportunity to enter the world. This kind of thing that does not require much combat power but takes time to find the opponent's figure is of course ours. It's a matter of being a mage, otherwise why would such a powerful Master Guyi train us? To be honest, I really don't know how strong you are. I just want to ask, can you keep a calm face when faced with machine gun fire? Although I only know how to magically modify long knives now, I will definitely modify cars like Barstow in the future. In the near future, maybe I can magically modify a space battleship with my wave of hands. Modifying a battleship is too far away. I'm still holding a modified Vulcan cannon, and I'm asking you if you're afraid. Modu sent Li Feng to Gu Yuhui's living room. Li Feng finally saw a hint of foreboding in the other person's words. He seemed to want to say something to himself, but Modu didn't say anything in the end. He just waved goodbye to Li Feng to express that he was busy. Went to hunt down the devil. Li Feng scratched his head, shrugged and gently pushed open the door to the living room. In the living room, Gu Yi was sitting cross-legged on a futon, either with his eyes closed or meditating. Li Feng walked up to Gu Yi, put his hands together in salute, and then sat cross-legged in front of Gu Yi in a decent manner, waiting obediently. This is the expression of Gu Yi opening his eyes. After a long time, Gu Qi stood up and walked to the window, looked at the scenery in the distance and sighed, then whispered, Fate, another group of apprentices are going to die. Although Li Feng opened his eyes and looked at Gu Yi when he stood up, he said he couldn't accept Gu Yi's sigh. From Gu Yi's tone, Li Feng could clearly tell that Gu Yi saw these apprentices go out to hunt demons but failed, and most of them were killed by demons instead. How should Li Feng answer this? Talk about letting those who are destined to die stay in Kamatage? Does Gu Yuhui not know how to do this? This is equivalent to seeing the future through time and changing the present. If the river of time is diverted because some people survive, or flows in an unknown direction, how do you ask Ancient One to protect the earth? You must know that it is precisely because Ancient One is familiar with the future that the entire earth has become her home field. The moment the invader lands on the earth, Ancient One can know the opponent's weaknesses, which makes Thanos, Dormammu, and others fear this alive. If a strong man who has been strong for who knows how long loses his home field advantage, although Gu Yi is still very strong, the effort he expends will increase exponentially. This is tantamount to accelerating Gu Yi's death time. After all, Gu Yi still has to spend his energy to resist the darkness. Energy. Anyway, Li Feng said that he couldn't bear the blame for the long-term influence, so he should just pretend that he didn't hear what Gu Yi was saying. After a while, Gu Yi turned around and sat back opposite Li Feng, reaching out to signal Li Feng to take out the magic book. Li Feng obediently handed the magic book to Gu Yi with both hands. Gu Yi did not take the magic book, but turned his head to collect his thoughts and reached out to click on the magic book. Li Feng had seen scenes like in lightning magic books. Barstow also did this when he recorded the spells he knew in the magic book. Seeing Gu Yi take back his hand, Li Feng looked calm on the outside, but on the inside he was smiling so hard that his back teeth were exposed. He couldn't wait to open the magic book to see what magic Gu Yi had recorded. Gu Yi was not in a hurry, and there was no harm in talking while Li Feng finished checking the spells he had compiled about the flow of time. After a long time, Li Feng, who felt that he had gained a lot, raised his head and said to Gu Yi, "Thank you, Master, for your teaching." Gu Yi shook his head with a smile and said, "You can still achieve this step without my help, just like you can now use to slow down the flow of time and increase the growth time of plants sideways." Li Feng had a bit of embarrassment on his face. He was practicing time spells in secret. Gu Yi, who was extremely sensitive to time, would definitely find out. But he didn't expect that the other party would even know the progress of his spells. Fortunately, Bastow's time spells would not affect him. The long river of time has its impact, otherwise Gu Yi would not have handed over the time-related spells he worked so hard to sort out to Li Feng. Gu Yi hesitated for a moment and said, "Li Feng, what do you think of Modu? What do you think? When you look at it horizontally or vertically, your face is black. If you take off your clothes, your whole body is black. You are a typical black man." Li Feng scratched his head and asked, "I don't know what you are asking about, Master." The question itself is a bit broad, and Li Feng really doesn't know the answer. "Little slippery man," Gu Yi said quietly after laughing and scolding, "do you know too little about the things you can travel through?" Li Feng really hasn't understood this. He doesn't even know where to start if he wants to understand. He only knows how to activate the quantum energy in his body to communicate with the long river of time, and then open the time travel door. After being passively swallowed by the time travel door, he goes through a journey of squeezing a rubber pipe. Then arrive at another world. Time travel is that simple. As for the specific principles, Li Feng, a rookie mage, can understand it. Li Feng shook his head blankly, indicating that he didn't know, and looked attentively, waiting for Gu Yi to explain to him. It's just that what Gu Yi wants to say has nothing to do with the principle of time travel. Although you didn't publicize your ability to travel through different worlds before, many people knew about it, including Modu. He was somewhat envious of your ability and wanted to talk to you. Let's go to another world together to expand our horizons, but he is too embarrassed to ask, so I asked you if you can take him with you when you travel." Li Feng frowned. The fact that he could travel to another world was indeed not kept secret. It was not because he didn't want to but because it was unnecessary. This is the Marvel world. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. cannot track magical energy now, Li Feng will definitely be involved with S.H.I.E.L.D. in the future. S.H.I.E.L.D. will definitely collect Li Feng's information and energy characteristics secretly. The energy fluctuations caused by Li Feng's time travel will definitely be discovered by the other party. When Fury comes to visit, how will Li Feng explain the energy fluctuations and the disappearance in the Marvel world caused by his time traveling? Moreover, time travel is also one of Li Feng's methods to intimidate Fury. "Don't mess with me, otherwise I will escape in a minute and return to the Marvel world with a bunch of magic viruses and so on. Let you know what a magic zombie massacre is. It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of zombie viruses. It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of ghouls and zombies. It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of the existence of these viruses that can spread the virus. You always know about the Black Death, right? According to many legends, the Black Death was a kind of black magic. But now, Li Feng has a new idea. According to what Gu Yi said, I can not only time travel by myself, but also take others with me. Does this mean that I can organize an army in another world and bring it to the Marvel world to dominate? Immediately, Li Feng gave up his dream of domination. He was too tired and could live a stable life as a rich man. First of all, he is not a leader, and he has no ambition to dominate, so let alone world domination, even the thought of organizing some kind of force makes his body feel weak and his limbs twitch. A person who has been lazy all his life, the word laziness has long been engraved in the bone marrow and engraved in the genes. Even the targeted gene therapy technology cannot treat the kind of people, so you want Li Feng to make a change? Impossible. But it's still fun to bring back some friends who get along well with the Marvel world. Who should I take with me? How about Merlin? The expressions on the Ancient One and Fury's faces when they saw Merlin must have been wonderful. And Odin's expression after those descendants of the gods came to this world must also be wonderful. With some uncertainty, Li Feng asked, Master, how do I take people through time? Hearing Li Feng's words, Gu Yi couldn't help but rolled his eyes. It's not like I can open the time travel door. How do I know how you time travel? However, Gu Yi still heard Li Feng's idea of bringing people back from another world. After thinking about it, Gu Yi seriously warned, the laws of the world are different. Don't bring some people over easily. If you accidentally adapt, if you don't follow the rules of this world, death on the spot is a minor matter. It is possible that the soul will be detained in this world forever. Once the soul is detained, it is inevitable that the other party will transform into a demon or other creature after years of torture. Considering that Li Feng is not a worry-free guy, and Li Feng already knows how to evade the magic detection of the temple, it will be difficult for her to detect if a few magical creatures sneak into the world quietly. Gu Yi stared at Li Feng's eyes. Said in a stern tone, I have made a rule with you. Any magical creature you bring back must be reported to me. Chapter 23 The Devil and Cilias. The duty of the temple mage is to prevent the invasion of magical creatures from different spaces. Once Li Feng brings back any magical creatures, it will definitely trigger the alarm of the temple. Even if Li Feng knows how to avoid the detection of the temple, he can hide for a while, but not for the rest of his life. My goal is to collect infinite gems and then open the door to go home. I have not thought about bringing any creatures to the Marvel world at the moment. I am just thinking about Merlin and other big figures. I want to take people to travel through time, but they may not be willing to do so. It's okay to agree to Gu Yi's registration request. After all, who can say for sure what will happen in the future? If I really bring any creatures back, I will have to register these magical creatures. After all, I have to apply for a passport when I go abroad. There is no reason to cross the border. You don't need a passport for international travel, right? Compared to being chased and killed by a group of mages, it would be easier to register with Gu Yi. In response, Li Feng nodded affirmatively and said, then I will notify Mo Du now? Are you going to go on a walk-in trip? Gu Yi shook his head and said, in a few days, Mo Du still has important things to do. Putting down the teacup in his hand, Gu Yi gestured to Mo Du to take advantage of the past few days to go out and do some busy work. Li Feng would ask any doubts about magic that she had, so that she could satisfy her mentor. Since Gu Yi has said so, Li Feng will certainly not be polite. Whoever is polite at this time is the stick. Opening the magic book, Li Feng pointed to something he didn't understand in the book, scratched his head and asked, as for the magic of resurrecting inanimate objects such as metal cows and stone mice, I only understand the use of a little spirit to attach to the dead object. The purpose of control is achieved, but I didn't understand the specific principle of how to operate it after watching it for a long time. Gu Yi took the magic book and answered Li Feng's questions one by one with a smile. Time passed quietly into the night as the two asked and answered questions. Even the ancient mage who was in charge of the Eye of Agamotto still could not stop the passage of time. Li Feng, who returned to the room, turned his head and looked at the magic sword, thinking, should he find a time to find a coach and practice his sword skills? When he can't face the enemy, he should always rely on ruthless hands to hack at random, in case he encounters him. If any master of swordsmanship wants to snatch the blade from me with bare hands, wouldn't the long sword that I worked so hard to modify have to say goodbye to me? It's just that in the Marvel world, whose sword skills are more powerful, but they are unknown? Li Feng, who didn't want to be easily found by S.H.I.E.L.D., first excluded people like Hawkeye. What was the difference between asking Hawkeye to learn sword skills and running to Fury himself? After thinking for a long time, Li Feng couldn't think of anyone to learn sword skills from, so he thought he should go to another world to find a master to learn sword skills. After all, he was famous in the other world, and even if S.H.I.E.L.D. knew that there was such a famous person, they couldn't find him. There is nothing to investigate. Who makes S.H.I.E.L.D. unable to travel through time? No wonder Li Feng secretly learned the sword skills of another world. Thinking of this, Li Feng packed up his belongings and prepared to go through time travel as soon as Modu returned to Kamatage. Of course, he had to say hello to Guyi before traveling through time. After all, the starting point for traveling to another world is Kamatage. To say that Li Feng, who lives in Kamatage, hides the energy fluctuations when traveling through time, is disrespectful to Kamatage itself. Has anyone seen a guest deliberately hide the energy fluctuations from the host? The trouble with not hiding the fluctuations in mana is that when Li Feng returns, he will definitely trigger the temple's alien space magical creature invasion alarm. Then a group of mages will circle around Li Feng's room. How do you ask Li Feng, a guest, to face Guyi? The mage who was guarding the local world was so nervous that he thought why the world was so stupid that he dared to directly invade Kamatage. Li Feng, who bowed and apologized, was beaten up by many mages to vent his anger. A few days later, Modu returned to Kamatage with a haggard look. Li Feng, who had been waiting impatiently for a long time, walked into Modu's room and frowned at him. Li Feng saw what troubled Modu encountered when he went out this time, and the other party was obviously in poor condition. Li Feng, who was leaning against the door frame, said softly, "Are you okay? You look." Modu raised his head and glanced at Li Feng, forced a smile, took a long breath and said, "It's nothing." After saying that, Modu stood next to him and poured a cup of tea for Li Feng and said, "Did Guyi tell you that I want to go to another world to broaden my horizons?" Li Feng nodded, looked sideways at Modu, who had a troubled expression on his face, and said, "Can you tell me what happened during your trip?" Modu was not so worried before leaving Kamatage, but now he is worried after returning from the mission. It is obvious that he encountered some accident during this trip. Li Feng said that he was very curious. Modu felt that this was an internal matter within Kamatage, and it was not suitable to negotiate too much with outsiders. However, Li Feng and Kamatage were very familiar with each other and were favored by Master Guyi. In addition, Li Feng's grandfather's relationship and Li Feng's current accommodation and food were in Kamatage. Modu subconsciously regarded Li Feng as the mage of Kamatage. After hesitating, he still told the cause of the matter. This mission to find and destroy demons was carried out by 3 masters and 6 apprentices. This was not only a mission to protect the earth, but also a test by the 3 masters to test the performance of the apprentices in actual combat and make preliminary selections for future key training. Originally, such tasks were very common in Kamatage. In Modu's opinion, if 3 masters held the battle, and 6 apprentices could hone their spells against a weak devil, there would be no casualties at all. Unfortunately, an accident happened in the end. A seemingly weak devil actually learned to hide its strength. Surrounded by 6 apprentices, it exploded with strength that was beyond Modu's expectation. He killed 3 apprentices on the spot and waited for the reaction of the 3 masters. When they came over to prepare to do it themselves, among the 6 apprentices, only Cassilis escaped because of his clever dodge. After that, the devil was severely injured by the 3 masters. When victory was in sight, the devil turned and fled. Mordo and the other 3 mages naturally went to pursue him, leaving Cassilis waiting there. The devil is called the devil because he is good at deceiving, and his methods are not discoverable by ordinary people. Just like now. What Modu and others are chasing is just a phantom of it, and the real body is still hiding in place. While the seriously injured devil was hiding in place, he was discovered by the cautious Cassilis. Cassilis knew that he was no match for the devil, even if the opponent was seriously injured. After discovering that the devil had also noticed him, Cassilis decided to use his escape to delay time, waiting for Master Mordo to return to rescue him after he realized that he had been tricked by the devil. But before the devil launched his attack, Cassilis felt that he still needed to put on a show. It was enough to frighten the devil and make him feel that he was a tough nut to crack. Cassilis put his hands behind his back, pretending to be powerful, looked at the devil with pity, and said, "The leader of your family is really stupid. He led the invasion with you group of cannon fodder even though he knew he was not the opponent of Master Guyi." The devil curled his lips and said that Cassilis' acting skills were too bad. He could see at a glance that the other party was pretentious, but he knew that the news of killing Cassilis was enough to make the three of Mordo return early. If he ruined his spell to return to hell, he really wants to sleep on the earth forever. Moreover, the leader's purpose of coming to the earth was not to invade the earth at all, but was assigned by the boss to see to what extent the dark energy in Ancient Yi's body had corroded. Otherwise, with so many forces staring at the earth, among the forces that really wanted to invade the earth, he the leader of the family has so little strength. It would be nice if he could drink soup behind the boss. So far, the mission has been completed quite well. The leader used his own life to find out the specific situation of Gu Yi. The devil turned his head and looked around, thinking, although he has been in the colorful world of the earth for a few days, the earth is worthy of being fat in the eyes of many big bosses. Such a beautiful woman will return to hell before she enjoys her rights. However, the devil squinted at Cassilis and thought, but before I return to hell to report the news, it would be a good idea to sprinkle some rat shit in the pot of you damn mages. Thinking of this, the devil said quietly, it doesn't matter if Ancient One is strong. After all, everyone uses dark energy. In addition, her Ancient One talent is indeed higher than that of my leader. At least my leader cannot steal the dark energy from Dormammu, it's normal for the leader of my family to be no match for Gu Yi. Tilting his head, the devil said with a half-smile, look, the leader of my family can live for countless years, and the ancient immortal is still alive and kicking, which only shows how powerful the dark energy is. Who is the person in the eyes of Cassilis? It is not an exaggeration to say that he is his reborn parent. How can a person who exudes the light of the Virgin be the person who uses dark energy from the devil's mouth? Cassilis retorted on the spot, you are talking nonsense. The reason why the Ancient One is powerful and has lived for so many years is because her understanding of time magic is unparalleled. The devil spread his hands, feeling that his spell to return to hell was about to be completed. With an expression that showed that he could not seduce Cassilis, he glanced at Mordo and others who were flying from a distance, and said, really? I thought you knew that Dormammu is a being that transcends time. Ancient One can naturally live for a long time by absorbing Dormammu's dark energy. Mordo, who returned, naturally couldn't hear what the devil and Cassilis said. He only saw the devil escaping back to hell, and Cassilis with even more confused eyes. On the way back to Comethage, Modu always felt that Cassilis was hiding something after talking to the devil. You must know that devils are among the top 3 races in terms of seduction ability. He was afraid that Cassilis would be raped by the devil. Tempted. It's just that he can't say it to Gu Zheng, who has no evidence and can only guess based on his feelings. People will suspect that he is jealous of Cassilis' talent and is suspected of destroying the unity of mages. After listening to Modu's words, Li Feng didn't know how to persuade Modu. After all, he didn't know that the devil would tell Cassilis about Gu Yi's use of dark energy. Whatever, if you think Cassilis is suspected of being tempted by the devil, just observe him carefully in the future. Just pretend that you care about Cassilis' magic practice, and no one will say anything to you. Modu thought for a while, nodded and said, this is the only way. By the way, when will we leave for another world? Li Feng spread his hands and said, I can do it at any time. It depends on your opinion. By the way, I would like to remind you that you can only carry magical props when traveling through time. If you don't want to be a naked man in another world, you can wear ordinary clothes or something like that. It's better not to wear it and change into a mage robe. Chapter 24 The Devil and Number 039, S. Breath. Before traveling through time, Li Feng first discussed with Gu Yi about the temple alarm that would be triggered when returning to the Marvel world. Li Feng did not want to face a group of mages holding magic weapons as soon as he returned to the Marvel world. Scared into having a heart attack. Afterwards, Li Feng took Modu, who was a little excited about being able to travel to another world, back to his room. Gu Yi looked at Li Feng and Modu as they left, with the corner of his mouth raised slightly, thinking, it's a pity that I need to pay attention to the earth at all times, and I can't easily leave the earth to travel to other worlds, otherwise once the creatures in the other space notice my departure, I'm afraid we'll invade the earth immediately. Modu, your ability is good, but your character. I hope that after several baptisms in other worlds, you can understand that in addition to black and white, there are also greys in this world. You no longer act according to the laws that mages must maintain the balance of nature. After all, mages are actually a group of beings who understand the rules, apply the rules, and break the rules. Active and passive choices have different impacts on the timeline. Now that you have taken the initiative to go to another world to gain knowledge, it means that your destiny has taken a turn. I hope you can change your destiny of betraying Kamatage in the future. Back in the room, Li Feng routinely checked his equipment, a hanging ring in his left hand, a magic gem ring in his right hand, clothes with cleaning magic, a magic long knife, a magic book and a few magic playing cards. These should be able to cope with some dangers, right? It can be said that Li Feng will bring all the props he can. And he does not want to die inexplicably in a different world due to lack of preparation. Taking a deep breath, Li Feng stretched out his hand to activate the quantum energy to open the blue-white time travel gate, while carefully experiencing the operation of quantum energy and the changes in the teleportation gate. This was crucial for him to completely master the time travel gate in the future. At present, Li Feng doesn't know anything except how to open doors. He can only rely on carefully understanding the differences every time he opens the time travel door, and finding out the rules of time travel time after time in order to prevent himself from having fun in a different world one day, etc. 100 years have passed since returning to the Marvel world. Seeing the time travel door open, Li Feng said to Mo Du, "Hold my arm, by the way, dear, have you finished your meal?" As soon as he finished speaking, the blue and white crossing door instantly enveloped Li Feng and Mo Du, who was confused by Li Feng's questions. To be honest, even though Li Feng faced time travel cautiously every time, he was still a little nervous and scared inside. After all, he had no idea what world was on the other side of the time travel door. What would he be able to remember if he met a protagonist he was familiar with? The plot, but there are so many worlds, who can guarantee that Li Feng will definitely encounter a world where he is familiar with the plot? For example, this time, when Li Feng stepped through the portal, he looked at the world under his feet covered with withered and yellow weeds with a confused look on his face. Where is this? Li Feng, who stood in the wilderness and looked at the medieval-style town in the distance, scratched his eyebrows, lowered his head and said to Modu, who was vomiting beside him, "The flight to another world has arrived. Passengers who are getting off, please stop. Go 100 meters away from the captain to vomit, because the smell of your vomit will affect the captain's good mood and appetite." Modu, who had already finished vomiting, heard what Li Feng said about vomiting and appetite, and subconsciously retched twice. He rolled his eyes and said, "Can you remind me not to eat before traveling through time next time? I just vomited all my lunch." Empty. Holding Li Feng's shoulder, Mo Du looked at the town in the distance and said, "By the way, your airline's flight service is too bad and it will go bankrupt sooner or later. What kind of time travel experience is this? I feel like I'm kneading the whole person like dough. Knead it away, then stuff it into a water pipe and squeeze it." Li Feng shrugged, looked down at his toes, and said, "You'll get used to it just like me if you get squeezed a few more times. Look at me, I don't have any signs of vomiting at all. I was wearing maiden clothes, but I forgot to prepare a pair of magic shoes, so I came to this world barefoot. My poor slippers, how could you abandon me and stay in the Marvel world? Don't you know how deeply I love you?" Modu on the side was also having a hard time. Although Li Feng had kindly reminded him before traveling through time, his shoes were magic shoes and his clothes were robes, but his underwear and socks were not magic products, so now he was fighting in a vacuum. "Where is this?" Modu, who felt better, rubbed his belly and asked, "Why do I feel like I'm back in the Middle Ages?" "You ask me." Li Feng spread his hands and said as he walked towards the town, "I asked who to go to. I also want to know what world I have come to. Every time I travel to another world, there is no instruction manual. I slowly go there by myself. Experience what kind of world this is." Approaching the entrance of the small town, the two of them looked at each other, not daring to approach the small town easily. Modu touched his chin and looked at the cross flag of the Holy See flying on the city gate in the distance, as well as the soldiers guarding the city gate wearing clothes with crosses on their chests, and muttered, "Trouble, this is really the medieval Earth." It was still a time when the Holy See was the only one. There was no need for Mo Du to say anything troublesome. Li Feng naturally knew what the medieval Vatican's attitude was towards magicians like them. Look at how history describes how the Vatican dealt with witches: hanging, burning, drowning, or hanging the witch first, then submerging the witch in water for a day, and finally dragging the witch out of the water and burning the body. Although Li Feng knew that he did not travel through history, but was in a certain film and television drama, as long as the Holy See appeared in the movie about the Middle World, magicians would still be unable to escape the fate of various persecutions. Looking down at his feet, Li Feng turned to look at Mo Du next to him, and asked in a low voice, what should we do now? We don't look like locals. I also want to go to the city to get a pair of shoes. It's too awkward to walk barefoot. Mordo's clothes were fine. A pair of magic boots wouldn't be noticeable to ordinary people, and the boots were nothing special in the Middle Ages. Although he appeared in a vacuum, he could at least look like a monk, but his body was too clean to be rubbed. Anyone will still attract attention. Because bathing was not popular in the Middle Ages. Under the guidance of the Holy See, people believed that a dirty body was closer to God. Not bathing was a symbol of holiness. People like Mo Du and Li Feng had clean clothes and bodies. They would probably be regarded as such as soon as they entered the city. Heresy. Moreover, the issue with Li Feng's barefoot pants is easy to explain, but the sleeveless shirt does not look like medieval clothing, and a black man and a yellow man are clearly heretics recognized by the Holy See, and they will only be executed if they enter the city. Rolling his eyes, Mo Du gave up the idea of going into the city in broad daylight and said speechlessly, as a modern person, I feel embarrassed walking without underwear. I also want to go into the city to buy some clothes. By the way, you said you had money with you. Are you still buying shoes? I think you're just going to steal them. Li Feng spread his hands, sat cross-legged on the ground and looked at Xiao Cheng, and said, what can I do if I don't steal? How can I convince the boss to give me a pair of shoes by talking? Pointing to the city guard at the entrance of the small city, Li Feng scratched his head and said, if I have such eloquence, I can directly convince those soldiers wearing cross uniforms to let us enter the city. Just wait, we will sneak into the city at night and see what's going on now. What is the specific situation? Mo Du didn't care whether Li Feng was resting or sleeping. He squinted at the small town in the distance, which made him feel a little strange. After a long time, Mo Du, who noticed something, sounded slightly angry and whispered, damn it, there is the devil's breath in the sky above the small town. Li Feng, who was already drowsy, opened his eyes instantly, stood up and looked up at Xiao Cheng, then turned to ask Mo Du, are you sure there is a devil here? It's easy to understand that the Holy See appears in medieval movies and TV dramas, but the appearance of the devil is no wonder my time travel door can be opened. Doesn't the appearance of the devil prove from the side that this world has extraordinary power? Li Feng, who lowered his head and thought about what world he was in, smiled bitterly and cursed, there are too few clues to analyze which film and TV series it is from. I don't know, Mo Du touched the scepter on his back and whispered, I only detected a very faint aura of devils. We need to check in person if there are any devils. Li Feng said that Mo Du's attitude towards the devil was understandable. After all, a few days ago, Mo Du watched a devil kill 5 apprentices like chopping vegetables. Now he suspected that a devil appeared in front of him. Mo Du was not excited and did not want to kill him. It's the devil, but... Li Feng looked at Mo Du seriously. He felt his head hurt. 2 magicians were tracking down the devil in the Middle Ages? And it's still under the eyes of the Holy See. If things go wrong, the 2 of them will be wanted by the Holy See for colluding with the devil. Will a good trip to gain knowledge turn into a journey of escape? Before Li Feng could think about what to do, he said that Mo Du had given up on tracing the whereabouts of the demon. The peaceful town in the distance suddenly became noisy. Li Feng could still vaguely hear. Kill the devil and avenge your family. Kill the witch, she is the one who brought the plague. Li Feng believed that his ears could hear correctly, but he was still a little uncertain. He turned and asked Mo Du, people in this small town are talking about devils and plagues. Mo Du said with a serious face, I heard it too. I think I felt the devil's breath above the small town before, and it might be the plague breath brought by the devil from hell. So there are not only demons in this world, but also a mysterious plague? Now I don't want to go into the city to steal a pair of shoes and food. Instead, I want to run far away. Who knows if these plagues will be effective on us? If we are also infected with the plague, I still want to go home and listen to my children calling me daddy. Before Li Feng could persuade Mo Du to leave, Mo Du suddenly lowered Li Feng's figure. The 2 squinted at several people dressed as knights, as well as a priest and an unidentified person escorting a prison car from the city gate. Get out! I just feel that the leading knight on the white horse looks familiar, isn't this Nicolas Cage? Dressed as a knight? Li Feng, who was vaguely guessing, muttered, well, you taught me magic in the world of Magician's Apprentice, but I guess you should teach me swordsmanship in this world. Patting Mo Du on the shoulder, Li Feng said with his eyes, let's follow the convoy. Mo Du thought for a while, nodded and motioned for the 2 of them to follow quietly to check the situation, because the little girl in the prison car always gave him a strange feeling, and when the prison car left the city gate, the people in the city shouted to the little girl, "Which devil?" and so on. He felt that there might be a devil hidden in the little girl's body. Chapter 25 Infiltrating the team. Before Li Feng and Li Feng had gone far, Mo Du suddenly heard the sound of horses running behind him and quickly signaled Li Feng to hide. After a while, a man on horseback wearing a linen cloak passed by Li Feng without noticing. Li Feng, who was hiding in the grass, looked at the other persons retreating back thoughtfully. Now just by looking at the cross swords used by the previous knights, I can tell whether this is the movie I remember. Mo Du stood up and looked at the knight going away, then turned to ask Li Feng, "I can see from your eyes that you seem to have some understanding of this world. Can you explain it to me?" It was obviously the first time for both of them to come to this world. How did Li Feng understand this world? Mordo was curious. Li Feng scratched his head. He really couldn't explain this question. He curled his lips and said, "I just remembered that I saw the symbol on the cross sword of a certain knight in front of me. It seemed to be the symbol of the Holy Sea's Crusaders." Mordo was a little confused. The cross flag in the small town behind him already indicated the existence of the Holy See in this world, so isn't it normal for the Crusaders to appear? Moreover, Mordo, who thought he had better eyesight, didn't notice what kind of cross sword it was. How did Li Feng pay attention to it? The most important thing is, does this have anything to do with the question I asked? But since Li Feng used nonsense to cover up how he found out what the problem was, Mo Du didn't care. After all, everyone has some secrets. Even if Li Feng had malicious intentions, Mo Du didn't care. Li Feng has been practicing like this for less than 3 years. He is a little rookie. He can destroy the opponent with one hand. It's a big deal that he can't go back to the original world. The worst he can do is create a mage temple in this world and continue to fight against the devils who dare to invade the earth. As for his own carelessness that allowed Li Feng to escape back to his original world, Mo Du said that the shrewd Guyi must have seen something, and Li Feng would have nothing to gain by then. Thinking of this, Mo Du glanced at Li Feng and said, "Let's go, I want to see if the girl who makes me feel weird is the incarnation of the devil." Li Feng shrugged and followed Mo Du towards the direction of the prison car, muttering in his heart, "If this world is really like the movie I thought, you don't even bring a magic weapon to check whether the devil is possessed. How can you tell?" Ghost. The two people, who were fast on their feet, soon followed the prison car and saw an old man with a grey beard beating a young man with a sword in his left hand. Seeing this scene, Li Feng curled his lips. He was already sure that this was the world of Season of the Witch. The knight who resembles the 777-level magician Barstow is officially the protagonist of this world. He believes in God but resents the Holy See's use of his faith to massacre women. The person in the distance who was beating the young man with his left-hand swordsmanship was Byman's good friend Fersen. These two people were originally victorious generals in the Crusades. They had been together on the battlefield for decades. They quit the Crusades because they were dissatisfied with their superiors who ordered them to slaughter women and the elderly. After a month of wandering, the two men needed to eat and rest because their horses and entering the small town that Li Feng and the others discovered. As soon as the two entered the city, their identities were discovered by the Crusaders and they were imprisoned. During this period, the bishop of the small town wanted the two to escort a witch who had brought a plague to the world to Sphoric Monastery, where there was a magical book of Solomon. The spell book can effectively eliminate witches and purify the world of plague. Neiman, who was disappointed with the Holy See, refused the bishop's request without even thinking about it until he discovered in prison that the bishop's mouth sounded more like a little girl's witch. In the end, Beeman, who was moved by compassion, proposed that as long as the little girl suspected of being a witch received a fair trial, he was willing to escort the little girl to the Sphoric convent. After that, the little girl Li Feng saw was put into a prison car, and Beeman led a knight, a priest, and a liar out of the city to Sphoric Monastery. Byman and Fersen have been on the battlefield for decades and their bodies are not missing parts. They maintain a high degree of alertness during battles and habitually observe the surroundings in case there are enemies hidden around them. Byman quickly stopped Fusen, who was fighting with the young man, and the two turned to look at Li Feng and Modu, who had no hidden figures at all. Fersen changed the cross sword to his dominant right hand in case the battle broke out suddenly, curled his lips and said to Byman, "The sacrifice boy who followed us before could still say that he wanted to get our approval and fantasized about becoming a knight, but these two people looked at each other indifferently. Not like a child sacrifice, more like a monk and a heretic." Modu could feel that the team escorting the witches were all ordinary people, but he didn't care even if there were extraordinary people. He only cared about whether the little girl in the prison car was a devil. If the little girl was a devil, then there was no need to say anything. Bullshit, he killed this devil on the spot. Li Feng glanced at Baiman, who looked wary of him, and seemed to be talking to himself, but also said silently to Baiman, "It is true that there is not a witch in the prison car, but it is not a witch who was beaten by the Holy See as you think. But inside the body, there is a devil hidden." Then, Li Feng looked at Modu, who ignored Baiman and others, and walked to the prison car speechlessly. He cursed in his heart, "You who didn't detect the devil's magic weapon can't see the devil in the little girl's body, because this cunning devil has no trace at all. Kill the little girl's soul, but live together with the little girl's soul in the same body, so you can sense the little girl's weird soul, but don't try to detect the devil by your senses." In this era when white people can be seen everywhere and black people are rarer than pandas, Baiman subconsciously drew out his cross sword to stop Modu and said, "You two, can you explain what you mean?" Mordo looked at Baiman, pointed to the prison car and said, "I feel the devil's breath, please allow me to check." Berman felt a little ridiculous. It was obviously for the poor little girl. The church said she was a witch, and this guy who looked like black charcoal said that the little girl was a devil. So the question is this poor little girl a witch or a devil? The devil in the prison car was stunned when he heard Mordo's words, and squinted his eyes to look at the two people who suddenly appeared. He sensed the magic power in Mordo and Li Feng's body, and knew that these two people were not ordinary people, but he knew that the two people could not see his true body at all, so he looked at Mordo and Li Feng leisurely, especially Li Feng. He could feel that the other party's magic power tended to be dark. Berman looked at Fersen, who spread his hands to show that he did not believe what Mordo said, turned his head and sneered at Mordo, "But why do I feel that you are more like a devil, a black ghost?" Beeman's word black ghost made Li Feng feel that it was time for him to appear, otherwise if he did not stop Mordo and Berman, he would see the scene of the wizard fighting the knight. Li Feng walked up to Berman, touched the magic long sword on his waist and said, "We are travelers who travel around. Can we join your team temporarily? I want to learn swordsmanship from you." The priest said that he knew the church altar boy who fought against Fersen and knew that the other party was named Kai. In addition, the wonderful battle between Kai and Fersen was recognized by Berman, so the priest did not refute that he let a person who knew him well join the team to escort the witch. But the priest was not so friendly to the yellow Li Feng and the black Modu. He just hid in the distance and shouted to Berman, "No, I don't agree with you joining the team. You are heretics." "Heretics?" Your sister, Li Feng, who was inexplicably accused of being a heretic, said that he was very unhappy. He reached out and took out the magic playing cards from his pocket, ready to greet the priest with a fireball. In this world, Li Feng was only interested in a spell book called Solomon, and swordsmanship and other things had to be put behind. Now the priest made Li Feng feel unhappy. Li Feng didn't care how the devil living in the girl's body wanted to occupy the world. He wanted to kill the priest directly and go to the Spherlock monastery to grab the spell book, and then return to the Marvel world to slowly study the spell book. Mordo, who was observing the little girl in the prison van through the figure of Berman, was unhappy to be called a nigger, but he still reached out to stop Li Feng. For now, he cared about the devil. Mordo frowned and asked Li Feng in a low voice, "I can't feel the devil's breath on the little girl, but this little girl gives me a weird feeling. Can you see anything?" "See what, isn't it?" Halfway through the words, Li Feng noticed that the little girl in the prison van squinted at him, and her eyes seemed to be full of warning. Li Feng suddenly realized that it was fun to reveal the plot, but it was deadly after the fun, especially when he was still a rookie with limited mana and spells. If he exposed the identity of the devil here and let the angry devil run out of the prison van, everyone present might be finished except Mordo, who had some fighting power, including himself. Li Feng was not sure that Mordo could keep pestering the devil so that he could leisurely open the portal and escape, especially since he had exposed the devil's identity and caused twists and turns in the devil's plan. Who would be the first target of the devil who revealed his identity? Of course it was Li Feng. "Damn, you devil dared to threaten me with your eyes. Wait until I prepare the spell to escape at any time, and let Mordo deal with you. Or wait until I find the Solomon spell book, so that I have the means to restrain you and then kill you myself." Thinking of this, Li Feng rubbed his cheeks, put on a fake smile, and said to the priest with a smile, "Since you say I am a heretic, I will join your team, so that you will have time to see whether I am a heretic or not. You wait and see how I will kill you, a priest who likes to talk nonsense." Berman glanced at the poker cards in Li Feng's hand. As a soldier who has been fighting with his head tied to his belt for many years, he felt the threat brought to him by the cards in Li Feng's hand. Originally, Baiman did not agree to Li Feng and the other two joining the team. After all, the two people's origins and purposes were unknown. However, after hearing Mordo's words, if you don't agree, just follow the team quietly, Baiman had to agree to the two to join the team to escort the witch. Compared with the two making trouble behind the team, Baiman believed that the two would not make trouble under his nose. In this way, Mordo and Li Feng joined the team while everyone looked at them with defensive eyes from time to time. During this period, Li Feng did join the team with the purpose of learning swordsmanship from Baiman as he said before, and kept asking Baiman how to practice swordsmanship. Chapter 26 Cooperation with the Devil. Although Baiman possesses powerful swordsmanship, he has honed it bit by bit on the battlefield. Apart from basic training methods, he does not know how to teach others how to fight. In addition, he is now tasked with escorting a little girl. Not to mention teaching Li Feng how to practice swordsmanship on the way. But Baiman obviously underestimated Li Feng's patience and talk. In the end, Baiman, who couldn't stand Li Feng's endless nagging, pointed at Kai behind him and said to Li Feng, "I want to learn swordsmanship from me. Then you practice with Kai first. With orthodox swordsmanship, when the day comes that you can defeat Kai easily, come and find me." After saying that, Baiman kicked the white horse under him in the belly and trotted to the front of the team. At night, Baiman and others lit a bonfire to rest and eat for a while. Modu, who was faintly surrounded by everyone, was sitting by the fire, but his eyes were full of doubts and he looked at the prison car from time to time. He was very puzzled. It was not the first time he had seen a devil that could hide its aura. But as long as he looked closely, he could always find some flaws and kill the devil calmly. But this time, the more he looked at it, the more he felt that the prison car was just an ordinary little girl, but the weirdness is more like an illusion. Judging from the fact that Li Feng only spoke half of what he said before, Modu felt that Li Feng knew the reason why he felt weird, but he just didn't know why Li Feng refused to continue talking. Modu patted Li Feng on the shoulder, pointed to the prison car vaguely, and asked in a low voice, "Do you know why I feel weird?" Li Feng turned to look at the little girl, scratched his eyebrows, picked up a piece of food from the fire, and walked towards the prison car and said, "Slowly experience it for yourself. This is a rare experience, by the way, stay alert, maybe later I want you to show off your skills." Li Feng had not taken a few steps when the priest stood up and stopped him. His tone was stern and his words were full of distrust. "What do you want to do? What show of strength? Do you want to let the Dark Witch go?" "I let your uncle Li Feng go without even looking at the priest." He walked straight past the priest and said, "Are you blind or something? Didn't you see that I just gave her some food? After all, I don't even have the key, how can I open the prison car? Or will you just stand aside and watch me split the prison car with my long knife?" Baiman glanced at the long knife on Li Feng's waist, motioned the priest to sit down with his eyes, touched his cross sword, and said, "You'd better not play any tricks, be careful of your head falling to the ground." Li Feng shrugged without looking back, walked to the prison car with the food, snapped his fingers and handed the food to the little girl with her back to him, and said, "You don't need food, but your body can bear it. If you don't want to go hungry and physically starve to death when you get to Sforok, I think you'd better eat some good food." The devil in the prison car was a little confused. Li Feng's snapping of his fingers when he was close to him seemed to make the sound of breaking glass, and he clearly felt the fluctuation of the spell, but he was sure that he did not feel any harm to himself. At the same time, he was not sure whether Li Feng really knew that he was hiding in the little girl's body, or whether it was just a test. Just when the devil was sorting out his sentences and testing who Li Feng was, he heard Li Feng say quietly, "You can obviously rush to Sforok Monastery on your own, but are you a fool who doesn't know where the monastery is? Or are you in the late stage of lazy cancer? Patient, if you have to ride in a prison car and have others wait on you all the way, do you really think you are an uncle?" Now, the devil was sure that Li Feng did know his situation, and he even knew the purpose of his plan. With evil eyes showing, the devil grabbed the fence and said angrily, "Who are you? What is your purpose?" Li Feng turned his head and glanced at Modu in the distance, curled his lips and said, "Two travelers passing by, as for their destination." Li Feng turned around and looked at the devil and said, "It's almost the same as you, it's all for the Solomon spell book, but you want to destroy the spell book, and I want to get this magic book. You know, Any one magic books or rare possessions for a magician. Property? Obviously, Li Feng's words let the devil know that the other party has regarded the Solomon spell book as a personal property. It also means that the other party will not be disadvantageous to him for the time being, and in a sense, he can become a partner. Of course, it is the kind of but it's a friend who will break his skin when he reaches Sforuk. As for killing Li Feng now, it's not that the devil hasn't thought about it. It's just that ordinary people can't kill Li Feng. Although he can kill Li Feng with all his strength, his identity will definitely be exposed. Just like Li Feng said that he was a fool and a lazy person, he could not walk into the Sforuk monastery with the devil's body because the gate and walls of the monastery were covered with magic patterns. These magic marks not only prevent his devil body from entering the monastery, but also prevents him from entering even if he is possessed by a human body. As long as his body is close to the door, he will collapse on the ground and then show some devil characteristics. At this time, if anyone looks at to his devilish appearance, he would just become a piece of meat to be slaughtered. Only by relying on transportation such as carriages and prison cars that he did not have to walk and relied on others to push and pull him, could he safely pass through the magic pattern gate. If the transportation vehicle passed through the gate of Sforuk Monastery fast enough, it might even show the characteristics of the devil. There won't be any time. Once he entered the monastery, the devil didn't think there was anyone else in the world who could be his opponent after showing all his power. As for why he chose a prison car instead of a carriage, first of all, although Sforuk is the territory of the Holy See, the door is usually closed. He wanted the horse to break through the door directly, but the horse is not stupid and will watch him ram it with its face. The gate? If the driver were to force the door into the monastery, the devil would first have to find a driver who was not afraid of offending the Holy See. In the Middle Ages, when the power of the Holy See was much greater than the power of the king, such a coachman who was not afraid of the Holy See's revenge was harder to find than a three-legged toad. So the devil finally chose to lurk in Anna's body and asked people from the Holy See to escort him into the Sforuk monastery. Now once Li Feng is killed, his plan will be in vain. It can only be said that the devil has some novel ideas. He likes to be beaten by priests and ride in prison cars. Only interested in spells. The devil's eyes rolled, and he said faintly, "Maybe we can cooperate. I only need to destroy the few pages of spells on Solomon that can kill me. I am not interested in the remaining spells. It doesn't hurt to give you the spell book. Wipe out? I remember those spells were forcibly sending you back to hell." Li Feng nodded and said, "I like this gift. I don't want to provoke a devil for nothing and make myself uncomfortable. So are you happy to cooperate? A pleasure to work with. Li Feng, by the way, I still don't know what you call you." The devil put the food into his mouth and said with a smile, "Do you want to ask me my name or the little girl's name?" "Forget my real name, the little girl's name is Anna. You can call me Anna during this period." After saying that, the devil even flipped the ends of his hair and gave Li Feng a wink, which scared Li Feng so much that he almost drew his sword to defend himself. Anna's beauty is indeed somewhat good, but facing Anna who is controlled by the devil, Li Feng said that this is not only a question of whether Anna is his dish, but also involves the issue of having sex with a devil whose gender and age are unknown. Rolling his eyes, Li Feng said speechlessly, "Put away your temptation. I don't even know who you are possessing. If nobles can use various perfumes to cover up the smell of sweat, what about you? I don't know where to find it. I don't think this little girl has ever taken a bath in her lifetime. Aren't you afraid of the smell if you possess her like this?" The devil shrugged while eating and said, "That's because you don't know the suffering of hell. It's good to have a physical body, but you still want to be picky? You know, in order to stay in this physical body for a few more days to prevent it from rotting, but even Anna's soul is kept, it's just forced into a corner of her body." After finishing the food, the devil glanced at Modu, leaned against the prison car, and whispered, "Speaking of which, I have a few questions to ask you. You and your companions look different. His mana attributes are very ordinary, and yours well. Tender towards darkness." Li Feng looked back at Modu, shrugged and said, "I've known about this for a long time. So does your partner know your magic attributes?" The devil said with a half smile, "I can detect the aura on his body. It is the aura left by the people who just killed me not long ago, so I miss you. Your companion is a Witcher mage, who is naturally opposed to the dark camp. What will happen if your companion knows that you will use devil-like spells in the future?" Scratching his eyebrows, Li Feng looked at the devil with his hands in his arms and whispered, "Then what should I do? Kill my companions now. The corner of Devil's mouth twitched. He could sense that Mo Du was far stronger than Li Feng. Even if he faced Mo Du, it would be difficult for him. He didn't believe that Li Feng didn't know that he was no match for Mo Du. Li Feng, tell me what you think. There's no point in guessing like this. It's a bit ridiculous to say it. The dignified devil is a little afraid of Mo Du's strength. Although the devil and Li Feng reached an agreement to cooperate, both of them knew that there would definitely be a battle after entering this Sphoric monastery. At that time, it was easy to say that the devil's only opponent was Mo Du. After the devil destroyed the Solomon spell book, he slowly started fighting with Mo Du. He did not believe that the large amount of mana in his devil body could not drag down the human body Mordu. But it's different with Li Feng. Although Li Feng is still a rookie in the eyes of the devil, spells are spells. Even a rookie's spells can interfere with him fighting with Mo Du. If he is not careful, he may be killed by Mo Du. Killed on the spot. So what the devil has to do now is to bring Li Feng over to Mo Du's opposition. Once Li Feng causes trouble for him, he will tell Mo Du that Li Feng also belongs to the dark camp. In the devil's mind, the demon hunter is a group-eating person who naturally hates people who use dark spells. Once Mo Du knew that Li Feng used dark magic, the devil felt that he could hide aside and watch the drama of Mo Du killing Li Feng. This kind of drama of human beings killing each other was his favorite. But at the moment, he is not sure whether the human rookie mage in front of him knows dark spells. If not, there may be a slight deviation in his plan. I don't have any ideas, the devil said in a low voice with the corner of his mouth raised slightly. I just think you are wasting your talent, or that you haven't found a good master, and I feel sorry for you. Chapter 27 Chapter 27 Spells and Knife Grip, thanks to Tokisaki Kuanglang for his support. Li Feng was not stupid. He could hear what the devil was alluding to, but he also knew more about Gu Yi's attitude towards using dark energy. As for Mo Du's thoughts, who cares, do you have the guts to question Gu Yi? Li Feng said bluntly, you want to teach me the devil's magic. If you want to learn, the devil pretended to be generous and said with a shrug, I don't mind being a mentor to a human mage. Of course, some spells are the devil's talents and I can't teach them. With your magic power, that's all. There are only a few dark spells you can learn. Li Feng rolled his eyes inwardly, can he really only teach so many? I'm afraid you are afraid that after teaching me many kinds of spells, I will use these spells to threaten you. But it would be nice to learn a few more dark spells. After taking out the burning hand and a few simple spells from the devil's mouth, Li Feng reached out and snapped his fingers with a half-smile. There was a sound of glass breaking and an orange-yellow light door passed through him. The devil's pupils a contraction. Although it seemed that Baiman and the others were still sitting around the campfire not far away, which was no different from the scene he had seen before, the devil knew that he still underestimated Li Feng. Just now, he unknowingly fell into the alien space spell set by the other party. Even if he was naturally insensitive to space spells, he should not have fallen into the other party's territory so easily. Li Feng's spell-casting method made the devil a little scared. If this guy locked me in the different space just now, I would have to work hard to escape. What if the demon hunter over there takes the opportunity to ambush outside the different space? My life is in danger. As one person and one devil exited the mirror space, Li Feng said quietly, for the sake of you continuing to teach me spells in the future, I will not imprison you in the mirror space. Remember, we are partners now. After saying that, Li Feng stopped talking to the devil and went straight back to Mo Du who was opening the teleport gate to cover him. After all, the movement in the teleport gate was still a bit loud. Without Mo Du's cover, Li Feng didn't think that the movement in the teleport gate could avoid a few people. For the time being, Li Feng and Mo Du didn't want Baiman and others to know that they knew magic, especially when the identities of the people around them were more or less related to the Holy See. Li Feng, who had his back turned to the devil, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Negotiating a deal with the devil was not easy, and he could be killed by the devil accidentally. It turned out that Li Feng just wanted to lock the devil in the mirror space and let him show his prototype. Then he exited the mirror space and prepared the portal to escape at any time while watching Mo Du fight the devil, but he did not expect that there would be unexpected gains. You must know that due to his familiarity with natural mana, he knows only a few dark spells except for communicating with the undead. Barstow and Gu Yi will not teach him dark spells. Now that there is a devil willing to teach him spells, why are you so polite? Of course, Li Feng will not learn these spells before Gu Yi examines them. Who knows if the spells taught by the devil have fatal traps? Returning to Modu glanced at Anna in the prison car and whispered, "What did you talk about after entering the mirror space?" Li Feng threw a piece of firewood into the fire, rubbed his hands and said, "Nothing, just talking about how the other party ended up on the road of no return as a witch." Not to mention that Modu didn't believe this, no one who was warming up to the cold believed it. They all rolled their eyes at Li Feng, and at the same time they were also wondering, mirror space? What is that? Li Feng said with an expression that would make you believe it or not, "Who will keep watch at night?" Modu's mouth twitched, "They have just discussed this issue. Originally, I wanted to keep a vigil, but they obviously don't trust us. Let alone letting me keep a vigil, why don't they tie us up and hang us from a tree to prevent accidents?" Not bad. Li Feng looked at the priest with evil eyes, "Hang him up? This idea was suggested by your blind priest, right?" Heretic. Li Feng's name made the priest jump up angrily and roared at Li Feng and Modu, "You still say that you are not a heretic? A nigger and a yellow-skinned monkey dare to call a clergyman that way? It's the greatest insult to God." Li Feng didn't care whether the priest was so angry that he jumped. He pulled out a long knife and pointed it at the priest. He bared his teeth and said, "You are talking about a yellow-skinned monkey? Try it. I will cut off your head and use it as a urinal. Do you believe it or not?" Modu touched the magic weapon with the same unkind eyes. As long as Baiman and others dared to do harm to the two of them, he would immediately let these ordinary people know what the dignity of a mage is. Baiman glanced at Li Feng, who looked like a gangster stabbing someone with a knife, and immediately judged that Li Feng was a young bird who had never killed anyone with a knife. As for Modu, although the weapon was a short stick, his aura was stronger than anything else. Li Feng, holding a long knife in his hand, is even more threatening. It's just that Modu just touched the short stick and didn't take any further action. In addition, Baiman knew that the priest had tortured Anna in the small town, so he had a bad impression of the priest. As long as Li Feng didn't really kill the priest, Baiman didn't care about Li Feng. How to threaten and intimidate the priest? Fosun looked at Li Feng, who had no murderous eyes, turned around and lay down on the floor he had made, and said, "If you want to make a noise far away, don't disturb me. I'm already very tired." Kai, the priest, could not tell that Li Feng was just threatening the priest, so he stood up and stood in front of Li Feng and said, "Mr. Austin, threatening the priest will lead to hell. Please apologize to Father de Borzak." "Li Feng, didn't you hear that it was this guy who made the rude remarks first?" Li Feng turned to look at Modu. Although Modu was dissatisfied with the priest's words, he didn't want to meddle in Li Feng and Kai's business. He ignored Li Feng's eyes and only used his eyes to warn the priest, "There will be no next time, otherwise I will make you look good." Shrugging his shoulders, Li Feng put down his long sword and said to Kai, "You want me to apologize to this blind man? Unless you teach me swordsmanship, I will apologize to this blind man one day when I can defeat Baiman with swordsmanship." Baiman glanced at Li Feng speechlessly, "What does this have to do with me? It's impossible for a guy like you to defeat me in this life. If you don't want to apologize, just say it. You are using the banner of defeating me to do it." Kai knew that Li Feng had joined the team under the guise of learning swordsmanship. Seeing that Li Feng was still thinking about learning swordsmanship, he hesitated and said, "You apologize first. And I will teach you basic swordsmanship. And even if you are not afraid of going to hell after death, aren't you also afraid that the Vatican will want you for threatening the clergy?" Li Feng glanced at the priest with a smile, but not a smile. "It's impossible to apologize. At worst, I won't learn swordsmanship. You are not the only one in the world who can teach me swordsmanship. As for the wanted man of the Vatican, he is so blind that he can't even see clearly. What do I look like, even if you can see clearly? He is a heretic who opens his mouth and shuts his mouth. I am afraid that he is a heretic lurking in the Holy See. Maybe he is also a heretic possessed by the devil. I am afraid that the Holy See will issue a warrant before he wants me. A medal for me to expose a devil lurking in the Holy See." The priest was so angry by Li Feng that he wanted to curse again, but now he could see that Baiman and Fosun, the most powerful people on the scene, did not like him. The remaining Knight Aiki obviously did not want to participate in this meaningless exchange. I stood up and walked to the prison car, as if I was going to watch the night. Glancing at Li Feng with sharp eyes, the priest said to Kai, "Thank you for your hard work tonight and keep a close eye on these two people of unknown origin. Don't let them let the Dark Witch escape." After saying that, the priest sat back on the ground, closing his eyes and recuperating, looking like he was going to watch the night after recuperating his energy. Mo glanced at Li Feng in confusion. He had many questions that he wanted answers to, but seeing Kai's appearance of obeying the priest and sticking to Li Feng's side, he felt that now was not the time to answer his questions. While alert to the surroundings, he crossed his legs and entered shallow meditation. Refresh your energy. Seeing that everyone was resting, Li Feng flicked the fire with his lips curled up, and said to Kai beside him, "Little guy, how about teaching me swordsmanship? I don't need you to teach you any secret skills, just basic swordsmanship." Kai didn't understand why Li Feng was so obsessed with swordsmanship. He glanced at Modu subconsciously and said, "Why don't you learn from Mr. Modu? I can feel that Mr. Modu is very strong." "That guy is strong, but he is better at sticks and whips. Although he is also good at swordsmanship." Li Feng touched his cheek, recalling the scene of being run over by a baseball and jumping up and down like a monkey, and muttered, "But I don't want to face baseball anymore. Let him teach me knife skills. I can think of this guy will definitely do it. Hit a baseball at me and let me split it with a knife." "You just preach and don't teach." Li Feng, who felt a little cold, tightened his collar and rubbed his hands to keep warm. "Be more straightforward. Don't be like a woman and give a pleasant word like a man." "Maiden, everyone else was wearing long sleeves and cloaks, but I was the only one wearing a thin sleeveless shirt. It was okay if they didn't give me any clothes during the day. At least I could keep warm when I moved my hands and feet, but they didn't give me a blanket or anything like that at night. Do you really want to freeze me to death? Or do you think that because Modu is not cold, you think I am not afraid of the cold either? The problem is that I don't have the magic power of Mordo to resist the cold." Kai thought for a moment, picked up 2 branches from the ground, handed one to Li Feng, and said, "Okay, I'll teach you the most basic sword skills, starting with holding the sword." After listening for a long time, Li Feng, who was a little confused, finally realized that there are so many things to pay attention to when holding a sword. What is the difference between holding a sword with one hand and 2 hands? How to prevent the sword from falling out of your hand or hurting yourself when holding the sword with one hand, and how to hold the sword so that it can be used more flexible, etc. He had never thought about or understood these. It wasn't until the middle of the night when the priest got up and prepared to change shifts with Aiki that Kai breathed out and said that he had to take a rest after teaching so far today. Just as Kai closed his eyes and snored slightly, Modu suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the prison car. He turned to Li Feng and said, "Everyone is fast asleep now. They are far away and can't hear our conversation. Tell me honestly that you and I were talking before. What did that weird girl say?" Li Feng glanced at Kai. "Just close your eyes and fall asleep? Are you still watching over us like this?" Turning his head and looking at Anna, Li Feng made sure that the other party could not see him. Then he gently snapped his fingers and wrapped Modu and himself into the mirror space. The little girl is indeed the devil, but the devil did not kill the little girl's soul, but shared the same body with the little girl. Modu was stunned for a moment, and said with sudden realization, "The devil is using the little girl's soul as a garment to wrap itself up, so I think the little girl's spirit body is a little weird." Chapter 28 The Devil and Number 039's performance, thanks to the support of Master Beilong. After thinking about it, Modu was about to open the portal and leave the mirror space. Since he was sure that the other party was the devil, what else could he say? He just used the method of punching out the spirit body to knock the devil out of the little girl's body with one palm. The rest was nothing more than just set up a mirror space to prevent the devil from escaping, so that you can kill the devil calmly. After finally finding a devil who was willing to teach him dark spells, Li Feng didn't want to waste this rare opportunity, so he quickly grabbed Modu and said, "I understand your desire to kill the devil, but please first think about the fact that we are near a small town. What have you heard?" Modu seemed a little impatient. He only wanted to kill the devil in order to avenge the apprentice who was killed by the devil. How could he recall what he had heard near the small town? Li Feng, who was holding Modu in his arms, sighed and said faintly, "It feels good for you to kill the devil, but how are you going to solve the plague in this world? Or are we going to leave on our own when the time comes, regardless of the life and death of the people in this world? Let's do that. Let them all die in the plague." Modu just wanted to refute the idea of spreading lime and treating the collection with medication, but then he thought that this was the Middle Ages when the health situation was worrying, and the plague was caused by the devil. Only extraordinary medicine could restrain this kind of plague, and ordinary medicine could only treat the symptoms. But is extraordinary potion so easy to configure and develop? It is estimated that when the extraordinary medicine is successfully developed, except for the powerful people who squat on the throne of power who can use it at will, ordinary people cannot afford it. Who will be the people killed by the plague then? At least Motive felt that his conscience would not forgive him. After thinking about it, Motive took a deep breath, calmed down his restless heart, and said, "What do you have in mind?" Li Feng spread his hands and said, "Since Baiman and his gang know that this guy caused the plague, they still want to send this guy to Sphoric Monastery. It can be seen that there is a way to restrain the plague in the monastery, so we don't have to worry about anything, just go to Sphoric together to prevent the devil from escaping." Mo Du felt a little unhappy with Li Feng's suggestion. Since everyone knew where there was a cure for the plague, why not just kill the devil now and then find a cure? What if something happened during the escort and the devil escaped? Manage? You must know that the devil is a cunning creature. Once he discovers something is wrong, he is likely to find an opportunity to escape. As for whether Baiman and others would prevent him from killing the devil, Moda said that he really looked down on the fighting ability of these ordinary people. At worst, he would just use the mirror space to imprison them directly, and then let them out after he killed the devil. Li Feng had a headache about this. Although he also wanted to kill the devil, that was only after he had used up all the opponent's spells. Okay now, how many brain cells does Mo Du have to spend to complete an idea? Li Feng, whose mind was running rapidly, scratched his head and said, "But I heard that the method of eliminating the plague in Sphoric Monastery is to use a special ceremony. This ceremony can not only eliminate the devil, but also eliminate the plague at the same time. What if this ritual requires a devil to complete? It turns out that you killed the devil because you were happy, but what if the other ritual can't be held? Not to mention that Moda doesn't understand this special ritual from another world, Ancient One will be confused for a while when he comes. Unless Ancient Yi studies the ritual carefully, he will figure out whether it can be fun to kill the devil first. After all, it is a world. There is a world of rules." Mo Du's intention to kill the devil was finally persuaded by Li Feng, but he asked about the incident that made Li Feng vomit blood. "How do you know this? What did the devil tell you? Is the devil so stupid that he will tell you everything? Or is it you? What kind of invisible deal have been made with the devil? I warn you, the devil never speaks the truth. What the hell do you care about how I know these things?" Li Feng, who was inexplicably hit by an arrow in the knee, was almost frightened by the speculation in Mo Du's mouth. "This is how you guessed that I had a deal with the devil?" "Never mind that I know this, it's my little secret," waved his hand. Li Feng said helplessly, "I will tell Guyi when we return to Kamatage. As for whether Guyi will tell you the truth, you can ask Guyi yourself." After saying that, Li Feng closed the mirror space while no one was paying attention. When the two entered the mirror space, the devil had already sensed the spell fluctuation caused by Li Feng's casting. He didn't know what Li Feng and Mo Du were discussing when they entered the different space. He was a little worried that Li Feng would reveal his background to Mo Du, which would affect his plan. Influence. By chance, the devil heard Aiki, who was keeping vigil at night, telling the priest who came to take over the vigil that he thought of his dead daughter when he saw him. The devil saw in Aiki's eyes that the other man did not believe that he was a witch, but rather wanted to let him go. Thoughts, this made the devil very unhappy. "I have worked so hard to plan the plan, why do you always think of letting me go? I just want to hitch a ride in the prison car, why don't I have to go through so many twists and turns?" In order for his plan to be executed smoothly, and because Li Feng had been demonstrating magic in front of him before, and Li Feng seemed to want to learn dark spells but didn't practice them immediately, the devil felt that he should find an opportunity to kill Ai. Forget it. Kai not only let Li Feng see the power of dark spells, deepened the other party's idea of practicing dark spells, causing a break between Li Feng and Mo Du, but also had the intention of showing off his muscles to Li Feng and Mo Du, and by the way, he could also guarantee perfect implementation of own plans. Thinking of this, the devil pretended to be scared and shouted to Ik, "Wait a minute, please don't go, don't let me and the priest be alone together." Looking at the pitiful Anna, Aiki, who had long been moved by compassion, walked into the devil and said, "Don't worry, I won't go far." Before Ik finished speaking, the devil grabbed Ik's hand and pulled him towards him. Seeing this, the priest on the side quickly stepped forward to help, but he fell into the devil's trap. When the priest approached the prison van, the devil grabbed the keys and the cross hanging from the priest's neck, stabbed the priest with the cross, then quickly opened the prison van and ran away. As soon as Li Feng and Mo Du came out of the mirror space, they heard shouts from the direction of the prison car, and noticed the faint spell fluctuations in the air. They were stunned at the same time, and quickly chased after the devil. Mo Du was afraid that the devil would take the opportunity to escape, so he drew out his magic weapon and chased after him very quickly. He looked as if he would beat the devil until he couldn't take care of himself. He would never give up. Li Feng, on the other hand, was just pretending. He didn't believe that the devil would take the opportunity to leave. At the same time, he also recalled that there was indeed such a part in the plot. Ik, who wanted to let the devil run away, fell into the devil's illusion, and finally crashed into Kai's cross sword and died. The devil's operation made Kai, a young trainee knight, depressed for a while. Li Feng, who had known where the devil would be hiding, quickly found the devil. The devil glanced at Li Feng, who was standing quietly beside him. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised while using illusions to influence Aki, while he kept explaining the requirements for releasing the illusions. Tips. Li Feng squinted at the devil, who felt that his strength had been inexplicably lowered by several levels. He turned around to look for Beeman and the others who were wandering around with torches in the distance. He kept these spellcasting tips in mind. After a while, he was already fascinated by the devil. When Aki, who was traveling from east to west, finally hit the cross sword in Kai's hand with his belly, the devil heard Li Feng beside him say faintly, "What kind of illusion is this? Why do you think it still has the ability to confuse people's hearts?" The devil spread his hands and whispered, "Dark illusions have the ability to confuse people's hearts, which is much stronger than the purely deceptive illusions of white magicians. The devil's expression is the best in the world for dark spells, which makes Li Feng wonder if he will be lowered by the devil if he stays with the devil for a long time. This kind of spell that confuses people is indeed outstanding in dark spells, but there is something you say about healing spell-like and dark spells are great. Don't you know that various energies have their own characteristics? You don't even understand this, you are just an ignorant idiot devil." The devil didn't pay attention to the disdain in Li Feng's eyes. If Li Feng led him to the dark side with just one word, then the devil should think about whether Li Feng had other intentions. The devil, who squinted to observe the change in Li Feng's expression, suddenly said, "By the way, I saw you and your companions entering a different space before. What were you discussing?" "We discussed how to kill you, do you believe it?" Li Feng spread his hands and rolled his eyes and said, "I told Mo Du why you made him feel weird." The devil's eyes twitched slightly, and he said in disbelief, "You told him that I am a devil. Why are you so anxious?" Li Feng said quietly, signaling the devil to calm down, "Didn't you see that he hasn't come to kill you yet? It means I have persuaded him." The devil rolled his eyes, feeling that it was incredible that a demon hunter could resist the desire to hunt the devil, so he asked in a low voice, "How did you persuade him to stop?" "How to persuade?" Li Feng scratched his head and said truthfully, "Of course I will tell the truth according to the story you arranged. Only by sending you to Sphoric Monastery and performing a special ceremony can we stop this war that is about to sweep the world. The plague in the world has been wiped out. My companion does not dare to gamble with the world's humanity, so he can only accept the suggestion of sending you to the monastery. At least before entering the monastery, he will not kill you. Don't want to kill him? In other words, if you can't be beaten to death, I'll beat you to death. Fortunately, I'm hiding in Anna's body, and it's just a beating, which is trivial to me. It's just that the devil race is naturally suspicious." While the devil was recalling the flaws in Li Feng's words in his mind to determine whether Li Feng was telling the truth, he looked at Kai, who was not far away and was frightened and panicked because he accidentally killed Aki, calling loudly to Baiman and others. Seeing Baiman and the others approaching, the devil smiled and said, "Okay, today's conversation is over, it's time for me to perform." After saying that, the devil quietly walked to a corner near Aki and squatted down, pretending to be as harmless as a frightened little white rabbit. The devil's face changed so quickly that Li Feng was stunned for a moment. And his heart was filled with tears. Praise the devil, you are so talented. With your quick changes in expressions and those innocent eyes, you definitely have a place in Hollywood. Chapter 29 Persuading Mordo. Li Feng, hiding in the darkness, quietly watched the devil perform the painful scene of having to escape because he was afraid of being abused by the priest. When the devil was taken away by Baiman, Li Feng said behind him with a pout, "I think Oscar owes him a trophy, what do you think?" Behind Li Feng, Mo Du walked out of the darkness silently, if the devil enters Hollywood, those human actors will have nothing to eat. Oh, and those who make special crafts will also have nothing to eat. After all, the devil can bring his own sound and light effects. The devil does not understand the characteristics of Kamatage's spell, so the devil was not aware when Li Feng cast the mirror space before. Now that Modu, who is more mature in using magic, is hiding behind the devil is still unaware. Only Li Feng, who understands Kamatage's spell, can realizing that Modu had actually found the devil early on, he just didn't show up in time due to the conversation between Li Feng and the devil. Modu looked at Li Feng with wide eyes, his eyes full of "give me a reasonable explanation." Li Feng shrugged and said easily, "That guy wants to teach me spells and lure me into corruption." Modu was not a rookie mage. He had watched the devil explain the spell before, and Modu could tell at a glance that it was not an illusion at all. "The devil wants to teach you seduction spells." Li Feng nodded with a hint of bitterness in his mouth and walked towards Baiman and others. Yes, his background is about to be found out by Modu. Seeing Li Feng nodding with his back to him, Modu felt a little confused. He knew that illusions did not have magic attributes and were considered common skills of mages, but seduction spells were obviously not. This kind of spell that can seduce people's soul is the only one. Only by using dark energy can the perfect spell casting effect be achieved. Since the devil teaches Li Feng such spells, and Li Feng is obviously keeping the spell casting requirements in mind, this is enough to show that Li Feng is using dark energy. A mage who used dark energy actually appeared in Kamatage, an ancient one did not notice or stop him. This was what Modu couldn't understand. Li Feng, who was walking in the front, carefully prepared spells to prevent Modu from hurting anyone, and said helplessly, "You are right, the magic I use is naturally biased toward the dark side, so what I will really be good at in the future is the dark type spell." Regarding the magic attribute, Li Feng didn't want to hide it because it was unnecessary. In the future, he will definitely get involved with Shield in order to collect infinite gems. When his spell is used, the magician of Kamatage will definitely know about it, unless Li Feng will always be an unknown little magician, but is that possible? How to use the infinity stones without power? It's just that he didn't expect that Modu would discover the problem of mana attributes just a few days after arriving in another world. Originally, Li Feng thought that he would at least wait until he was Modu's opponent to confess, so that even if Modu wanted to kill him, he would have the ability to resist. Strength. Modu, who was following Li Feng, touched the magic weapon. Although there was no emotion or anger in his tone, Li Feng could still feel that Modu was trying to suppress his anger in his heart. "Can't you use other energies to become a mage? Since your natural energy is biased towards darkness, can you only choose dark spells?" Li Feng seemed to realize Gu Yi's purpose in asking Modu to follow him to travel to another world, compared to Modu who had become rigid and had an extreme personality 10 years later. Although Modu now also does not accept dark energy, he did not take action to deal with it on the spot. "Myself, does this mean that the other party's prejudice against energy can still be changed?" Thinking of this, the corner of Li Feng's mouth twitched. "I'm talking to Master Gu Yi, why don't I just eat and live in Kamatage for free? Why don't you let me transform into Modu's life mentor? You can't tell me in advance. I'd better apply for a doctorate in psychology or something to further my studies. Are people who use dark energy necessarily evil?" After hearing Li Feng's defense, Modu just wanted to use the short stick in his hand to let Li Feng know who to listen to now. He resisted the urge to beat Li Feng. Modu told Li Feng the consequences of using dark energy. Dark energy is inherently corrosive. Sex, as long as you are exposed to dark energy, they will corrode your soul from the inside out until they drag your soul into the abyss. Li Feng said nonchalantly, "You are staring at the abyss, and the abyss is also staring at you." "I understand, but the question is, am I careful enough? I didn't see the illusion and temptation that the devil taught me before. I just kept it in mind, but didn't. Do you want to study on the spot? I just want to go back and sort out the magic materials and learn how to resist the corrosiveness of darkness." Mordo is a bit unyielding. How many powerful mages just think that they are well prepared and study dark energy? What is the result? Everyone has fallen into the abyss. Facing the dark energy, the only way to be safe is to ignore it. Li Feng, there is no good or evil in energy. Evil is always the human heart. And how do you know that people who use dark energy will definitely fall? Based on experience. Whose experience? Those pioneers who have fallen into the abyss? At least they have proven that the methods I use cannot resist darkness, but what about the future? Who knows? Maybe I can find a way to resist the corrosion of dark energy. You know that there are countless worlds behind me. I think I can always find a way. Li Feng turned to look at Mo Du and said quietly, the Holy See in your impression should lead people to do good, but do you think the Holy See is just in this world? Look at the church in our world, and look at it now, what are the people in the Holy See doing when the plague is rampant? They are gathering troops for an expedition, brutally massacring all those who do not believe in God, and seeing this as saving the world. Look at the way the priest treats you. You have done nothing in this world, yet he calls you a heretic when he opens his mouth and calls you a nigger when he doesn't. Can such a person be called a priest? Modu agreed with this point. After all, he had resisted many foreign invaders in his own world. Even if he did not exude the radiance of holiness, what would he call a heretic? Li Feng. If you think that such a person who likes to torture prisoners is also an upright and kind-hearted priest, well, I admit that I use dark energy to be a demon king. Li Feng pointed to Baiman and others in the distance, you are looking at who really saves the world and saves the plague. According to the rules of the Holy See, Baiman and Fersen were originally traitors who were sent to the gallows, but they left the army because they were dissatisfied with their superiors' orders to massacre women and the elderly. Therefore, the Holy See accused Baiman of deserting? Do you think that only Baiman was accused of desertion? Man and Fersen are dissatisfied with the atrocities of the Crusaders? Just forget it, it's just that the remaining people are afraid of being ordered to be hanged by the Holy See and dare not resist. Don't talk about this era, even in our era, if your boss ordered you to massacre unarmed women and old people, would you do it? It would be strange if you were not sprayed to death by humanitarians. After talking about Baiman and Fersen, I was talking about the just dead Ik. He was dissatisfied and obeyed the monk's instructions for everything. In the eyes of the priest, he was also a heretic. There was also a guide who was a liar who was sentenced by the Holy See. The rest Kai is a rookie with simple ideas. Such a group of people who are deserters, heretics, liars, and rookies in the eyes of the Holy See are saving the plague. Aren't they afraid that if they are not careful, the entire team escorting the witches will be wiped out? Don't tell me that you really believe that stupid Bishop K who said that the Holy See has no troops. Baiman left the front-line battlefield. He can get here by walking in a month. It can take just 1.5 months to send some random people on the battlefield. Complete the mission of escorting the witches. I guess the Holy See does not regard this mission as saving the world. Perhaps in their view, killing all the women and children who do not believe in God is saving the world. Do you think the Holy See can represent justice or them? Li Feng talked a lot, which made Modu a little confused. After a long time, Modu retorted, but with the rise of science, isn't the church gradually changing itself? Li Feng raised the corner of his mouth and said sarcastically, yes, the Holy See has made changes, so tell me how those Copernicus, Bruno, Kepler, Galileo, and others who dedicated their lives to science died. They are like pioneers who resist the corrosion of dark energy. They know that the church will refute and burn them to death, but they are still studying their own doctrines. Now look, who is still saying that their research has failed? Speaking of this, Li Feng said quietly, perhaps among the dark mages hunted by you, some have figured out how to resist the corrosion of dark energy, but you stubbornly believed that dark energy is irresistible, and killed them. As a result, the method to resist the corrosion of dark energy was buried. Mo Du felt like he was laughing out loud at Li Feng's crooked ideas. According to what you said, am I not the Holy See of this era? Killing those mages who fell into darkness means that I keep making mistakes. That's not the case, Li Feng shrugged and said, but before you kill those dark mages, please check whether those people have committed any crime. Turning to look at Mo Du, Li Feng said expressionlessly. But you are right about one thing. You are like the Holy See of this era. As long as you think you are right, you will kill all resistance. Maybe after a few hundred years, future generations will think of you not only as a hero who resisted foreign invaders, but also as a butcher. Li Feng finally concluded, I just want to tell you, don't judge the world with your current concepts and vision, time will swell your face. Seeing that he was about to return to the team escorting the devil, Moda didn't want to argue with Li Feng. At the same time, he also needed to reflect on his own thoughts. But before that, Moda warned in a stern tone, I will tell you about your use of dark energy. Tell Guyi that at the same time, I will watch you closely behind your back. If you find signs of corruption, don't blame me for purifying you. To put it nicely, it's called purification, but actually it means killing me. Rolling his eyes, Li Feng waved his hand to Moto behind him and said, whatever you think, I know the characteristics of dark energy anyway. I am not 200% sure. I don't want to be contaminated by dark energy. Chapter 30 Crossing the Wooden Bridge. Under the strange eyes of Berman and the priest, Mordo returned to the team and sat silently by the fire. He ignored anyone who asked him questions and was immersed in his own world. Mordo was thinking about what Li Feng had said to him before. Whether it was explicit or implicit, Li Feng compared him to the current Vatican, a conservative Vatican that did not tolerate others' rebuttal. At the same time, he also understood that Li Feng wanted him to keep up with the times and not judge the present with the outdated principles of the past. Just like the many changes that the Vatican will make in the future, Li Feng used the church as an analogy to accuse him of some ideas that need to be changed, otherwise there will eventually be people like Berman who resist the church, and then there will be countless people like Berman who dare to resist the Vatican. In the end, the old church will be crushed into slag under the wheels of history. Looking at Li Feng who was yawning, Mordo thought silently, whether to change thoughts is like the question of becoming slag or reborn with lust. Is this what Li Feng wants to tell me? Is it so easy for a person to change his mind? Not easy. Looking at the future Camartage with Wi-Fi installed, Ancient One has used actions to tell Mordo to keep up with the times, but Mordo is still conservative and radical. Of course, the current Mordo is not the Mordo of 10 years later, and many of his inherent ideas have not yet been formed. What Li Feng needs to do is not to put Mordo's ideas into the blender and grind them up just by this conversation, but to let doubts appear in Mordo's mind, and then use this doubt as a fulcrum to slowly pry Mordo's radical ideas. This time Mordo did not turn his face on the spot and beat Li Feng with a short stick. In Li Feng's mind, this is an opportunity to change Mordo's future betrayal of Camartage. After a long time, Mordo suddenly thought that he just wanted to remind Li Feng to be careful of the devil and not to make a deal with the devil. How did the style become Li Feng to educate himself? Which link went wrong? Glancing at the devil who was imprisoned in the prison car again, Mordo silently stood up and squatted on the prison car. No matter whether Li Feng's ideas were right or wrong, the devil was always a devil who liked to deceive people. There were many ways to learn dark magic. He couldn't watch Li Feng learn magic from a devil. Didn't you see that this devil hiding in Anna's body still had a way to kill IK after losing most of his power? Mordo felt that he should still guard the devil himself. Even if Li Feng wanted to learn general dark spells, he had to learn under his supervision. At the same time, he cut off Li Feng's contact with devil-specific spells to prevent the devil from having the opportunity to kill Li Feng. Mordo's behavior of sitting on the top of the prison car was not questioned by the priest and others. After all, Anna had just escaped from the prison car. If Mordo and others wanted to let the Dark Witch run away, just now was the best opportunity, instead of searching for the whereabouts of the witch with them and imprisoning her back in the prison car. In the early morning, after hastily burying IK's body, the group continued to move forward. Fortunately, due to IK's death, there was an extra horse in the team, which made Li Feng very happy, but it was a pity that Li Feng was happy too early. He forgot that he couldn't ride a horse. In the end, it was Fersen who couldn't stand it and gave some instructions on horseback riding tips, so that Li Feng knew how to control the horse under him and trotted behind the team. To be honest, if Li Feng had enough physical strength, he would rather trot behind the team, because riding a horse is too damn cold for him wearing only a sleeveless shirt. It is better to run to exercise the body and keep warm. Li Feng looked at Mordo squatting on the prison car with resentment, and said in his heart, "You don't have to rub the skin on the inside of your thighs on the horse, you can also use magic to resist the cold, and finally you can leisurely enjoy the environment without car exhaust pollution on the top of the prison car. Are you here to escort the devil or to go on vacation? If you are here for vacation, can you please not look at me with a dead face when I study magic with the devil at night? Don't you know how lethal your black face is in the dark?" 2 days later, the team came to the edge of a cliff under the guidance of the guide Hugmar. Obviously, the team wanted to reach the other side of the cliff. In addition to taking a detour, the only way was to pass through a dangerous bridge with rotten wooden boards connecting the other side of the cliff. Li Feng looked at the bottomless cliff and silently stepped aside. Although Li Feng knew that in the movie, this dangerous bridge would not officially wave goodbye to everyone until all the people had passed through it, but now there are 2 more people, Li Feng and Mordo. Who knows if the dangerous bridge will say goodbye to everyone in advance after adding the weight of 2 people? Li Feng looked at Mordo and asked, "Such a bridge is scary for people to walk on, let alone let the prison van pass. How about we open a portal to the other side? Mordo looked at the bottom of the cliff and was still struggling whether to reveal his identity as a mage to open the portal. Berman led the horse and slowly walked onto the wooden bridge, showing a great performance of using his own life to explore the way for everyone. Everyone present was stunned, and Fersen prayed in his heart that his old friend could walk to the other side safely. It was not until Berman walked to the other side safely and confirmed that the wooden bridge was temporarily safe that the priest and Fersen breathed a sigh of relief. Mordo got off the prison van and walked to Li Feng, indicating that he should not reveal his identity as a mage for the time being. He really couldn't stand the priest calling him a heretic all the time. Under the command of Baiman, and Kai pulled the prison van containing the devil slowly onto the concave wooden bridge. A rope was connected to the rear of the van to prevent it from falling off the cliff and was held in the hands of everyone. At the same time, the rope could also slow down the speed of the van to prevent the van from moving too fast and causing the wooden bridge to break. The prison car had just advanced a few steps, because the weight of the prison car made the already dented plank bridge fall further, which required more force to pull the rope. The priest obviously did not have such a big strength, and he shouted when his hands were cut by the rope. Saying "I can't do it anymore," he let go of the rope in his hand. When the priest let go, the strength of the rope spread flat and Li Feng's hand suddenly increased, causing Li Feng to lose his grip for a moment and let go of the rope. Fortunately, the plank bridge seemed to be a dangerous bridge, but when the prison car lost control of its speed, it still persisted and did not collapse prematurely. Li Feng noticed that after the prison car lost control, Baiman and Kai both fell and almost fell off the cliff. Fortunately, they grabbed the aging rope on the wooden bridge in time and volleyed over the cliff. As a battle-experienced knight, Baiman could still climb the plank bridge by himself, but Kai could not. If the devil hadn't grabbed Kai with one hand, this guy would have fallen to his death. Li Feng curled his lips. He guessed that the devil deliberately grabbed Kai with one hand to make everyone believe that he was a witch. After all, how could a little girl pull an adult with one hand? Li Feng muttered, "It's probably because the devil didn't want someone who wanted to let him go, and someone who wanted him to leave showed up. He simply revealed that he was a witch, so that everyone could send him to Sforik Monastery with peace of mind." Modu glanced at the prison car in the middle of the wooden plank bridge, walked to Li Feng and whispered, "What are you talking about?" Li Feng shrugged his shoulders, shook his head and said, "Nothing, I just lamented that the devil is so comfortable. He didn't have to walk across a dangerous bridge." He stayed in the prison car and watched Baiman sweating while admiring the scenery on the cliff. Modu rolled his eyes at Li Feng and said angrily, "If you like it, how about I lock you in a prison car and parade you through the streets of Kathmandu one day?" Glancing at the devil, Modu narrowed his eyes and said, "After these 2 days of observation, I feel that the guy doesn't care about anything except whether he can reach Sforik, including knowing that we are mages, but he doesn't care at all. He is not worried that we will ruin his plan. Does the devil think that his strength can defeat us?" Li Feng looked at Modu with a half-smile. He didn't believe that Modu really didn't think of the reason. Modu raised this question just to tell Li Feng that the devil can't be trusted, even if the two signed a cooperation contract, it can't be trusted. Besides, Li Feng, the contract hasn't been signed yet. Isn't the devil worried that Li Feng and Modu will ruin his plan? Worried, but the devil knew that it was useless to worry. After all, he was a devil and was born to be on the opposite side of Modu. The devil clearly knew that the reason why the two parties had not started fighting yet was because neither Li Feng nor he had seen the goods he wanted, the Solomon spell book. Before the spell book appeared, the devil felt that such a battle was meaningless. Not only would his identity be exposed, he would also be prevented from entering the Sforik Monastery. Li Feng wanted to get a few more spells. At the same time, one person and one devil also know that once they enter Sforik, the two parties will immediately break up and fight with real swords and guns based on their own strength. Patting Modu on the shoulder, Li Feng smiled and said, "I know what you are worried about, but I will never underestimate the devil's strength, and didn't you notice? That guy's strength has inexplicably dropped a lot after he escaped last time. I guess what's hiding in Anna's body is no longer the body but just a projection. I think a devil's projection is just an easy target for you to kill." Modu smiled slightly and said, "The devil's purpose is just to destroy the spell book that restrains him. Letting a projection complete the task is indeed the best choice. After destroying the spell book, his body comes to the earth, and no one can take it. There is no other way. If you fail, you will lurk and look for the next opportunity to destroy the spell book. At this time, the prison car stopped steadily in the middle of the wooden plank bridge. Byman shouted to the priests and others, "Tie the rope to the horses, and you and the horse will pull the prison car forward." There were 2 more people pulling the prison car than in the original work, and there was no scene of the plank bridge collapsing in the plot. However, Li Feng still cut the ropes that fixed the plank bridge. After all, the bridge was about to fall apart. If any unlucky guy boarded it at this time, the plank bridge only collapsed and people fell off the cliff for a day. After crossing the wooden plank bridge, everyone collapsed on the ground. Byman and others collapsed on the ground because they were too tired and had no strength. Li Feng was frightened when he broke a plank with his foot when crossing the wooden plank bridge. "Ma Dan, I should have known. Crossing the bridge was so exciting, so I used the excuse of taking a dump to hide in the distance." When Byman and others crossed the bridge, I opened a portal and came directly. After a while, Fersen looked at the forest full of strange dead trees and gloomy wind, and asked, "Where is this?" The guide Hagmar gasped and replied, "Insectwood Forest." After saying that, Hagma glanced at the devil vaguely. He had seen the scene where the devil rescued Kai with one hand before, which convinced him that Anna was a witch according to the priest. At the same time, Hagma was thinking about finding an opportunity to kill the witch. The reason? He felt that the life and death crisis he experienced was all caused by this damn witch. As long as he killed the witch, the crisis would naturally end. Is this a reason? Chapter 31 Wolf Pack. A few nights later, the Wormwood Forest was filled with heavy fog that made it difficult to see even one's fingers. Everyone was already tired from walking through the windy deadwood forest. In addition, Hagerman, who wanted to kill the witch, was a little excited and couldn't help but quarreled with Falson. This made Byman have to order to rest where he was, waiting for the fog to dissipate and ease everyone's nerves. Feeling a little tired, Li Feng did not climb into the prison car to learn spells from the devil as usual, which made Hagma very happy. If Li Feng and Modu hadn't rested in the prison car every night, he would have found the opportunity to kill the witch. After finally looking forward to it, Li Feng and Modu were both warming themselves up by the fire, as if they were preparing to spend the night by the fire. How could Hagma give up this hard-won opportunity? In the middle of the night, when everyone was asleep, Hagma quietly took a crossbow and wanted to shoot the witch. However, as soon as Hagma approached the prison car, Byman, who woke up from a nightmare, discovered him. Although Byman believed that the girl in the prison car was a witch, he still wanted to send her to Sphora for trial. One wanted to kill the witch, and the other wanted to protect her. The quarrel between the two woke up Li Feng, who was still sleeping. Li Feng, who breathed and rubbed the corners of his eyes, suddenly looked in the direction of the devil with Modu, who had just been woken up. Modu asked softly, "Do you feel it?" Li Feng nodded and said, "It is the spell fluctuation caused by the devil's casting. Although the spell fluctuation is very weak, after these few days of study, I can detect that it is a suspected summoning spell. Do you want to remind everyone to be careful?" Modu thought for a while, stood up and walked towards the prison car while shouting, "Be careful, there are wild animals nearby." After saying that, Modu jumped onto the prison car and said to the devil fiercely, "What the hell are you doing? Can't you let me have a good sleep?" The devil felt that he was wronged. Originally, he just wanted to show off his extraordinary power to let everyone know that he was a witch, so that he could be safely sent to the Sphoric monastery. However, in the end, I don't know whether Hagma was neurotic or something, but he actually thinking of killing him. Is it easy for me to be a devil? Ik thought I didn't look like a witch before and showed signs of letting me go, so I killed him. Now Hagma thinks I am a witch, so he wants to kill me. What is wrong with you humans? I just wanted to go to Sphora, but what happened? Don't you know that I'm just a clone and don't have much power at all? Summoning a pack of wolves to kill Hagma consumes a lot of my mana, and you guys will kill them at a time. Are you bothered? It's hard for me to do. No. With an innocent look in his eyes, the devil raised his head and glanced at the Buddha-like Modu, curled his lips and said, "You are smart. You know that the wolves will deliberately avoid the prison car, so you just hide in the prison car and watch the show of the human-wolf battle." Mordu's warning made Byman prick up his ears and listen to the howling of wolves in the distance. He vaguely felt that he was surrounded by wolves. Isn't this a joke? Wolves are smart social creatures. If they dared to attack after seeing so many of them, it was either because the wolves were going crazy with hunger or because the wolves had judged that they were no match for the wolves. Suddenly, Byman realized something and quickly walked to the prison car and looked at the witch. The witch used one hand to save people and proved to Byman that she had extraordinary power. Byman looked at the witch with a sneer and sarcasm on her face and realized that in addition to the two possibilities he thought before, there were also wolves surrounding him. Maybe it was summoned by a witch. Realizing that the wolves were summoned by witches, Byman was relieved. He knew that beasts are most ferocious during estrus, fertility, and when they are hungry. Now that it was not a group of hungry wolves or a pack of wolves that could swallow the escorting team, Byman felt that he was still capable of killing this group of wolves that had been forced to gather. Motu carefully sensed the wolves nearby, and he was also relieved. He could feel that the number of wolves surrounding him was actually not many, but he still took out his short stick, knocked on the prison car and said, "Let the wolves leave, otherwise let me give you a taste of the magic weapon." The devil subconsciously looked at the short stick in Motu's hand. Is it a magic weapon? Spreading his hands, the devil opened his innocent eyes and said, "But all my mana is used to summon wolves. Now I have no power to disperse them. Besides, my mana is only enough to summon so many wolves. You can kill them with just your hands." Light. The devil looked at Li Feng, who was only wearing a sleeveless shirt, and said with a smile, "I am kindly giving my students a wolf fur coat, why don't you appreciate it? Even if my student dislikes the smell of the wolf fur coat, there are so many wolves. Meat can always improve your diet, right? It makes me feel bad to see you eating black bread as hard as a stone every day." Li Feng had no intention of paying attention to how the devil looked at him now. His attention was entirely on the wolf in front of him that was grinning at him. The wolf suddenly pounced on Li Feng. Li Feng calmly turned sideways to avoid the wolf's claws, and then used the sharp magic knife in his hand to cut open the wolf's waist. The wolf was immediately split into two parts by Li Feng, and its intestines and other internal organs were leaked out. Land. After a while, the wolves summoned by the devil were lying on the ground in a mess. But before Byman could breathe a sigh of relief, everyone vaguely heard the dense howling of wolves in the distance. Byman knew it as soon as he heard the sound. This time the wolves came in greater numbers, and they hurriedly asked everyone to escape on horseback. On the way to escape, Motu looked at the devil whose mouth was twitching. The devil spread his hands and said with his eyes, "These wolves behind are really not summoned by me. They are probably caused by the smell of blood caused by you killing wolves. This is not good. Blame me." Motu glanced at the devil with suspicious eyes, then turned to look at the pack of wolves hanging behind the team in pursuit. "I saw a few wolves suddenly broke away from the pack and took a shortcut to a hillside. When Hagma passed by the hillside on horseback, they rushed out and pushed Hagma off the horse. The nearby wolves suddenly swarmed up and faced the wailing sea. Gemma bit into pieces." Li Feng didn't notice anything when the wolves were biting Hagma, but Motu, who was observing the surroundings in the prison car, felt that Hagma's spirit body had strange fluctuations in an instant. Then, Hagma was as strong as if he had taken a stimulant. He tore off the wolf biting his shoulder and took out his dagger to kill it. At this time, Byman, who was running at the front of the team, also discovered that Hagma was surrounded by wolves and was making a final resistance. Byman did not even think about it and drew his cross sword and rushed into the wolves to rescue Hagma. Fersen glanced at the wolves, and he seemed to see panic flashing in the wolves' eyes. He felt that he and others had killed too many wolves before, but no one died in the team, so the wolves realized that this is a tough nut to crack. Thinking of this, Fersen drew his cross sword and rushed towards the wolves. Before Fusen could swing his sword to kill, the wolves seemed to be frightened and turned around to flee. Li Fengjiao was surprised to see that Hagma was not dismembered by the wolves, but was in a coma due to excessive blood loss. He muttered, "Is it because I am a butterfly flapping its wings that the plot has changed? But I don't remember that I incited wings." After thinking about it, Li Feng put Hagma behind him. "If he's not dead, he's not dead. Why should I worry about this?" Byman carried the dying Hagma onto the prison cart, bandaged it briefly and asked the priest to take care of the semi-conscious Hagma. He got on his horse and urged everyone to leave quickly. Byman knew that animals like wolves were very revengeful. Although the wolves seemed to have left now, there was no guarantee that the wolves would return again. Especially Byman was sure that these wolves were summoned by the witch. Who knew whether the witch would let the wolves lie in wait in front of the team? In order to reduce casualties, Byman felt that it would be safer for his group to take advantage of the dense fog to dissipate and run out of the wormwood forest overnight. The sky gradually became brighter, and the trees the team passed by gradually began to thin out, all of which indicated that everyone was about to leave the wormwood forest. Byman, who was sure that the wolves would not be chasing him, couldn't help but feel angry in his heart and was about to shoot the witch with a crossbow. Li Feng raised his head and looked into the distance. He had already faintly seen Sphoric Monastery. In the past few days, Li Feng has been eating, not eating well, sleeping, and no one is safe, especially now that it has started to rain. Li Feng, who was riding a horse for half the night, was shivering from the cold. He is about to get it now. The Solomon spellbook returned to the Marvel world, and he really didn't want to waste time. Before Beeman could point his crossbow at the witch, Li Feng pointed to the top of the mountain in the distance and said, "Look, Sphoric Monastery." Beeman was stunned, turned to look in the direction Li Feng pointed, looked at the witch with disgust, then turned over and mounted his white horse. Knowing that there would be a battle waiting for him, Li Feng rode on his horse and flexed his arms and legs. "Although I am just a soy saucer in the upcoming battle, even if I am a soy saucer, I still have to behave well, as if I am familiar with the battle of a mage." The prison car drove slowly towards Sphoric. Modu, who was on the roof of the prison car, glanced at Hagma vaguely, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, and he said disdainfully, "Although I don't know what's going on with you, your spirit body is here. Slowly dissipating. This is a phenomenon only seen by dead people, so I have reason to suspect that you were possessed by the devil when you were bitten by the wolves." After a long time, the group finally reached their destination. Li Feng and Modu looked at each other as they walked towards the gate of Sphoric Monastery. Ordinary people could not see the hidden magic patterns on the gate and the wall, but they could see it clearly. However, Li Feng only glanced at it and said he didn't understand it, while Modu watched it with gusto while thinking about it. Li Feng pushed Modu and asked in a low voice, "What tricks did you see?" Modu turned to look at the devil and Beeman behind him, and said with a smile, "I know why the devil didn't come to Sphoric by himself, because the defensive circle on the gate prevents the devil from entering the monastery at all. Just like the protection network formed by the three major temples, which prevents and intercepts all magical creatures in different spaces, the magic circle in the monastery has a single function and can only prevent the devil from entering. But once the devil enters the monastery, these magic circles will also it loses its effect, just like an airport security gate. As long as you find a way to carry dangerous goods through the security gate and get on the plane, will this security gate still have any effect? I'm just curious about the energy of these magic circles. It doesn't seem to be ordinary. Mana is more like the power of faith." Chapter 32 Chapter 32 The fight begins. Li Feng was not at all curious that the energy source of the magic circle that protected Sphoric Monastery was the power of faith. After all, this was the Middle Ages when the power of the church surpassed all kingdoms. What happened to a dominant church using the power of faith to protect the monastery? It was very strange. It's normal. Moreover, there is a real spell book in this monastery, and the defense method must have mysterious power to operate normally. When Beeman knocked on the door and received no answer, Kay had to climb over the wall into the monastery and open the door for everyone. As the convoy entered the monastery, except for Li Feng, who had already expected it, the rest of the people were surprised that not even a single person was seen in the huge monastery. In the prison car, the devil admired the surrounding buildings with a half-smile, ignoring Li Feng who was touching the long knife with his right hand. Modu didn't know when he held the short stick in his hand, ready to fight at any time. The movements of Li Feng and Modu made Beeman and Fusen feel the smell of gunpowder in the air. They looked at each other and drew out their cross swords. While observing Li Feng and Modu, they were on guard against the witches in the prison car. Soon, a group of people arrived at the door of the church. Before Fusen tied up the horse, the priest beside him could not wait to rush into the church. Beeman followed the priest into the church with some helplessness. For a time, only Li Feng, Modu, Fusen, who was always on guard with a cross sword in both hands, and Kai, who looked confused, were left in the small square at the entrance of the church. Li Feng looked at Fusen, then at Modu, drew out his magic sword and pointed it at the devil, and said to Fusen, "Dear knight, can you point your sword at the devil in the cage? You always point. Look at me, I'm panicking." "Devil? Didn't the people from the Holy See say he was a dark witch?" Fusen frowned in confusion and asked, "What did you say?" In the prison car, the devil wanted to wait for the priest to get the key of Solomon before revealing his prototype, but he didn't expect that the student he had taught dark magic for many days would reveal his identity. The devil glanced vaguely at Hagma, who was sitting in the driver's seat of the prison van, and suddenly laughed. Along with a gust of wind, the devil's hot hands grabbed the fence of the prison van, trying to melt the prison van where he was imprisoned, and said, "How many times?" For centuries, you have hung, burned, and crucified everyone who blocked your wealth and power. We in hell thank you for sending so many delicious innocent souls, so that we have enough strength to break through the defense lines of hell. Now, you do very welcome." Before the devil finished speaking, the magic knife in Li Feng's hand suddenly burst into flames. He slashed at the devil and said, "If you want to hit him, just hit him. I don't know if I can get hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute income? I'm only chatting with you when I'm sick." Fersen on the side was already stunned and subconsciously pointed the cross sword at the witch who was about to come out of the prison car and had already shown some of the characteristics of the devil. Kai was no better. He rushed into the church with a cross sword and prepared to call Baiman out to help. Fusen thought that he had seen a lot through his long years of fighting, but he had never seen a rare breed like a devil. Fusen glanced at Li Feng who was slashing the devil with a long knife, and muttered in a low voice, "Now I have a story to tell when I return to my hometown, and it is a story that I have experienced personally." Fusen turned to look at Modu again and said, "The long knife in your partner's hand looks like magic or something. What about you? What's your profession? A monk? Do you hit the devil in the face with your fist?" Modu glanced at Fersen from the corner of his eye, activated the short stick-like magic weapon in his hand, and hit Hagma like a whip, who was lying quietly in the driver's seat of the prison car. Although Fersen believed that Anna was the devil, he expressed his incomprehension about Mordo's attack on the innocent Hagma and wanted to stop him. However, before Fersen could speak, Hagma turned over and avoided the magic weapon with the dexterity that a human should have. Attacking, he got down on his hands and knees like a lizard, spitting out a forked tongue and cursed, "Damn demon hunter, I don't know that this body is already miserable enough, how can you bear to whip the corpse?" Yes, without Modu's explanation, Fersen also saw that Hagma was possessed by the devil. "It's just that I am a knight, and you asked me to cut people. I said that I have been doing this for more than 10 years and my skills are good, but I am still the best at cutting down devils. Next time, if you don't do a good job, don't beep." Li Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at Hagma, and suddenly realized, "I said, why did those wolves bite you half to death and then left?" It turns out that the real Hagma had already burped at that time, and you took the opportunity to occupy the magpie's nest. Modu kept in mind that Li Feng said that Sphora could use special rituals to eliminate the plague in this world, so he never dared to use full power to attack, for fear that he would focus on killing the devil. The reason is that after forcing out the prototype of Hagma, he stopped taking action. He just stared at Hagma and remained alert. In his heart, Mordo regretted that he did not bring all the equipment when he traveled through time. He was careless, and this one possessed Hagrid. Ma's devil actually crawled out of hell and was even stronger than me. After Beeman and the priest entered the church, they found that everyone in the church had died of the plague. When the priest's mentality collapsed, he finally found a priest who was only half-breathed. Under the guidance of the half-breathed priest, Beeman found the goal of their trip is Solomon's Key. Kai hurried into the church, pointed at the church door and said, "Quick, the Dark Witch has turned into a devil." Mordo and Austin are confronting them. Them? More than one devil? Baiman threw the Solomon spell book on the desk to the priest and ran out of the church with his long sword. As soon as Baiman and the other three ran out of the church, Modu, who had been guarding the surroundings, instantly released the spell he had prepared, wrapping everyone present and the devil into the mirror space. Before Baiman and others understood what was going on, Modu rushed towards Hagma with a short stick shining with magic light, and at the same time ordered, "Debakake, quickly carry out the ritual. Li Feng, concentrate on dealing with the devil's clone. Leave this guy who dares to leave hell to me." The moment Hagma was wrapped in the mirror space, he knew he was in trouble. This kind of alien space that could instantly cut off the connection with hell made him lose his mana backup, causing him to consume every mana he used. This is different from what he originally imagined. You see, this is a space spell. It doesn't look very popular at all. I know the space spell of Li Feng who joined forces with Baiman to cut my clone in the distance, but how can you also know the space spell? This doesn't make sense. In a corner of the mirror space, Fusen originally wanted to help, but he saw that the devil would dodge when faced with Li Feng's long knife. However, facing Baiman who was holding an ordinary weapon, the guy actually resisted directly. This scene made Fusen know that his weapons are also useless against demons, so it is better to stay by the priest's side who is reading books to see how to eliminate demons. It took Li Feng a long time to hit the devil with his sword, and it was still scratched, which made him very unhappy. While slashing at the devil randomly, he said to Baiman, "Look, I told you to teach me swordsmanship a long time ago. If I with swordsmanship like yours, I would have chopped this devil into pieces and made it into a pie. Baiman restrained the devil's movements with his long sword so that the flaming sword in Li Feng's hand could hit the devil. He cursed, then why did you come to me to learn swordsmanship recently? If you had come to me 10 years earlier, I would be dead now. I can drink wine and watch you kill the devil. Look at your flawless swordsmanship. The presbyopic grandma next door to Fusen who walks on crutches is even more accurate than you. Devil, two big brothers, we are fighting now, can you please play quietly? After forcing the devil back again, Baiman said helplessly, my weapons can't hurt the devil. Li Feng, is there anything you can do? Sprinkle the holy water on the sword, or Li Feng handed the magic sword to Baiman, smiled and took out the magic playing cards from his pocket, and said, use my sword. As for me, Li Feng said, holding a playing card between his index and middle fingers, I still prefer the mage's fighting style. After saying that, Li Feng instantly flew the 2 playing cards in his hand towards the devil. Baiman glanced at the long knife with the flame in his hand gradually weakening but not extinguished, said good knife and rushed towards the devil. With Baiman armed with magic weapons and Li Feng, who kept using playing cards to smear the devil's face, the devil was covered in bruises and bruises after just a few dodges, making the clone unable to maintain itself and had to die with hatred. After destroying a clone, Li Feng only now had the intention to look at Modu, who was beaten by Hagma mainly on defense and counterattacked with a few blows. Hagma noticed Li Feng when the clone disappeared, and said in a rough voice, Li Feng, my student, what a perfect body, I taught you so many spells, why didn't you practice any of them? The devil's words aroused the defense of Baiman and others. Except for the priest who glanced at Li Feng and continued to lower his head and hold the cross in his hand to recite the incantation, the remaining 3 people pointed their long swords at Li Feng. In response, Li Feng took out a playing card from his pocket, looked at Baiman and said, man, it's so disrespectful of you to point your knife at me. After saying that, Li Feng shot the playing cards at Hagma and said, you have taught me a lot of spells, but the question is which of those spells is safe? Either one can seduce my mind, or I can practice it locate my position, are you teaching me spells or asking for my phone number? Be prepared to forcefully contact me at any time. After scratching his head, Li Feng looked down at his belly and said to Hagma, is this the body you want to take away from me so that you can use all your power at any time in this world? The priest was the most helpless person present, because he found that he had been chanting the spell for a long time, but the devil did not respond at all, which was obviously unreasonable. The devil expressed disdain for this. Holding the Book of Solomon like this is a spell that is effective when a person chants a spell. It is more accurately called a divine spell. Books are like telephones, mantras are like phone numbers and distress signals, faith is the phone line, and chanting mantras is like calling God. When God sees the phone number you call, he will understand what kind of help you want to get, and transfer the corresponding energy along the telephone line to the caller. Of course, before you send a distress signal, you must first know what help you want. Just like after you call 10,086 and ask, I want to check the phone bill on the China Unicom card, how do you want the other party to answer? In addition, there is another problem, which is also the reason for the devil's disdain. Before you call, please check whether there is a signal on your mobile phone. Mordo's mirror space has cut off the connection between Hagma and Hell. How can your god receive a call for help from the priest? Chapter 33 End of Chapter 33. Li Feng saw the priest's doubts and sneered, blind priest, what you are holding is not a fake, is it? Why don't you show it to me? The priest admitted that he was blind, but he actually mistook the extremely dangerous devil for the slightly dangerous dark witch. What else could this mean but blindness? But when he handed the spell book to Li Feng, the priest was still a little hesitant. After all, Li Feng, who could shoot burning cards, was a wizard, a heretic, etc. If Li Feng's purpose was the same as the devil, he was all aiming at this key of Solomon. What should I do if I come? Li Feng was not in a hurry. He saw that although Moto was not Hagma's opponent, Hagma couldn't do anything to Moto for a while, so Li Feng occasionally used playing cards to interfere with Hagma's offensive and let Moto take a breath. He said to Baiman, looking at the fact that we happily hunted a devil's identity before, why don't you step forward to help Moto so that the devil can be eliminated as soon as possible? Baiman looked at Li Feng, then at Hagma, and thought for a moment, anyway, maybe Li Feng is a human, probably, maybe a human. After all, I can't see through the other person's disguise. Compared to devils, even if human beings are evil, they are not that evil. At most, the holy see that rules mankind could be replaced by Li Feng and Mo Du anyway. It is already so bad now. How can it be worse? But demons are invasive alien species that will destroy the living environment of mankind. If all people die, how can we talk about the future? Thinking of this, Beeman used his eyes to signal Fersen to protect the priest, and then rushed towards Hagma with a long knife. Not far away, a slightly embarrassed Motu breathed a sigh of relief after Beeman joined him. He couldn't help shouting to the priest, "Are you ready for the ceremony? Why haven't you eliminated the devil yet?" Motu's words made the priest grit his teeth and make up his mind to hand over the Solomon spell book in his hand to Li Feng. If the devil is not dealt with, this key of Solomon will fall into the hands of the devil. In comparison, it is still a heretic given to human beings. Li Feng is more cost-effective. After all, Li Feng is also a human being. At worst, the Holy See will send troops to hunt down Li Feng and Mo Du. The priest still doesn't believe that just Li Feng and Mo Du can make a big difference in front of the army. Taking the spell book, Li Feng squinted and touched it carefully. Then Li Feng said with a wry smile, "I understand why the spell is ineffective." After speaking, Li Feng returned the spell book to the priest, and while gently opening a matchbox-sized portal so that the spell book could contact God, he said, "Now, quickly recite the spell to weaken the devil." The priest who took the spell book breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the book was not lost. Weaken? Not eliminate. Although he was confused, the priest mumbled and recited the spell obediently. Li Feng shrugged and explained, "If you are facing the devil's clone, the spell can indeed destroy the opponent, but now it is the devil's body, and this spell can only weaken it." Hagma realized that he was in contact with hell. He immediately abandoned Mordo and Beeman, endured an attack from them, and then pounced on the priest. He appears here in his true form. Although the spell book can only weaken him, it doesn't matter if his strength is suddenly weakened while he is still fighting. Once he dies, he will really say goodbye to the world, so grab it first. Solomon's key became Hagmar's top priority. As for Fu Sen and Li Feng who wanted to snatch the spell book, Hagma expressed his disdain. Would he care about an ordinary human being or an ordinary human being without a weapon that could hurt him? There is also Li Feng. After these few days of teaching and the questions raised by Li Feng, it can be seen that this guy is just a rookie on the path of magic and is also not worth mentioning. The rookie mage was just not worth mentioning in the eyes of Hagma. When facing Hagma who was about to pounce on him, the corner of his mouth slightly raised and he said, "The spell I prepared when I opened the portal has been waiting for a long time. You are thirsty and you still want my body? You stupid devil!" As soon as Li Feng finished speaking, he raised his hand to avoid Hagma's claws and shot a ball of water-like substance on Hagma's face. The distance between Hagma and Li Feng was so close that there was no chance of missing the target. I saw this water-like substance blurring Hagma's face, and the other party seemed to be possessed by a snail. Every movement was in slow motion. Same lens. Li Feng knelt down on one knee while maintaining the output of mana. While stabilizing the mana to slow down the time spell, he shouted to Motu and the priest, "Hurry up and complete the ritual. Motu, you come to open a portal and control the devil's actions." "What the hell? Every time he moves, my mana is being consumed exponentially, and I can't maintain the stability of the portal." The priest also realized that the situation was critical and kept speaking faster. Motu glanced at the portal released by Li Feng and was about to dissipate. When he reached out to open a portal, the magic weapon in his hand hit Hagma's heart like a spear. Hagma was a little panicked in his heart, just a little, but more importantly he couldn't believe his eyes, what he saw. While Hagma struggled to get out the time spell, he looked at Li Feng greedily and said, "Time spell. You know the time spell, and the space spell before. Your body is getting more and more perfect the more you look at it. Every world has its own rules, and the rule of this world is that the thing that can cause the most harm to the devil is holy water. Although Mo Du's short stick is a magic weapon, it is a blunt weapon and the damage is not as good as Li Feng's sharp magic knife." Mordu hit the devil's chest with a short stick several times, causing him to spit out a few mouthfuls of blood. Hagma finally broke free from the time spell. Patting his chest, Hagma said that Mordu only caused minor injuries to him. With his devilish recovery speed, this injury was just a minor injury. Just when Hugmar was about to rush towards Li Feng again and forcibly occupy Li Feng's body, the priest finally finished chanting the spell and said, "Amen." Modo suddenly felt that Hugmar was weakened by half, and immediately closed the portal, cutting off the connection between Hugmar and Hell again. Now, Hugmar, who was weakened twice in a row, was a little confused. This was completely different from what he thought. It's all the fault of the damn priest. If he hadn't been chanting spells all the time, my strength would be weakened by more than half? Now it's okay. I can't get out of this alien space, but before I die, I'll kill you, the chattering priest. By the way, my soul is hiding in your body. I know that there is a custom of burying in peace in this world. When I leave the alien space, I'll see how I deal with you after I contact Hell. Higman, who was clearly rushing towards Li Feng, suddenly rushed towards him. The priest said that he was just an ordinary person and was no match for Hegman at all, and was willing to leave the stage and get a box lunch. Although the priest died, it also bought time for Mordo and Beeman to kill Hugmar. The two of them cut off the devil's head one after the other. Seeing Hugmar's body ignite in flames after his death and eventually turn into a pile of black ash, Li Feng breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It's finally over." Mordo glanced at Li Feng, then at the priest's body, with a slight smile on his face, and muttered in his heart, "Are you sure it's over?" Mordo secretly prepared a spell, and said in a tone that I know the devil too well, "Think about how long it took the devil to occupy Hugmar's body." Li Feng and Beeman suddenly realized something, subconsciously looked at the priest's body, and they both said in their hearts at the same time, "Damn, there's still a fight." Mordo, who had prepared the spell, secretly breathed a sigh of relief, "Since you want to pretend to be dead, then really die." After thinking about it, Mordo pointed his finger at the priest's body, and the body was instantly swallowed by the mirror space. Before the corpse completely disappeared, Li Feng's eyes twitched, and he subconsciously cast a spell to make the Solomon spell book escape from the priest's hand. At the same time, Li Feng felt that he vaguely heard the devil in the priest's body shouting, "No." It can only be said that Mordo's attainments in the mirror space spell exceeded Li Feng's imagination. At least he couldn't transform the space in the mirror space as quickly and stealthily as Mordo. Perhaps Li Feng hadn't finished casting the spell, and the devil who had already noticed the spell fluctuation had jumped up and slapped Li Feng. Of course, this is also because the devil didn't understand Camartage's spells, otherwise how could the devil wait for Mordo to cast a spell after possessing the priest and throw him into the other dimension to be crushed to death by the power of space? Mordo looked around, put the short stick back on his back, and said, "Now is the end." After speaking, Mordo stretched out his hand to open the portal, signaling everyone to leave the mirror space. Li Feng was the last one to leave the mirror space, because he found that the black and grey traces left by the devil after his death seemed to be a high-quality spell material. As a poor wizard, there was no reason to give up when encountering spell materials. When Li Feng picked up the Solomon spellbook on the ground and passed through the portal, he saw Beeman returning the long sword in his hand to him with a questioning look on his face. Li Feng thought about it. Since the matter was over and Solomon's spellbook was in hand, if Mordo didn't urge him, he would still like to learn sword skills from Beeman. After all, the sword skills he used to chop the devil's clone were too embarrassing. "Mordo, are you in a hurry to go home?" Mordo looked at Li Feng, who was touching the long sword, in doubt. After glancing at the long sword, he guessed Li Feng's plan and rolled his eyes and said, "Take a rest for a month before going home." "Just 1 month?" Li Feng chuckled twice, put the long sword back into his waist, looked around at the people around him, and said to Beeman, "I know you have many questions that you want answers to. In exchange, you teach me swordsmanship practice, and I will tell you everything I know." Beeman and Fersen hadn't spoken yet, and Kai was the first to ask excitedly, "Who are you?" "Wizards." Li Feng thought about it. Although Beeman and Fersen no longer trusted the plan of the church, they still believed in God. In addition, they had just eliminated the devil. It is estimated that the two of them would only be more firm in their existence and belief in God. However, considering their relationship with the church, it is estimated that they would not tell the church about the existence of Li Feng and Mordo. Only Kai, the altar boy, trusted the church and believed in God. If he did not use words to package himself as a glorious image emitting holy light, he would probably turn around and tell the church. In that case, Li Feng would pat his butt and leave, but the magicians in this world would be miserable. "We are from a secret organization, and our life's work is to stop and kill those magical creatures from other worlds with evil intentions." At this point, Li Feng pointed to the destroyed prison van and said, "Devils are also magical creatures from other worlds, and they are also on our hunting list." Chapter 34 T. As Li Feng recounted the duties of Camartage in front of everyone, Modu secretly rolled his eyes and complained in his heart, "Are you ashamed to say this? You are neither a person of this world nor a mage of Kamatage, so what's the point of putting all this glory on your face?" He wanted to go back and think about it, but Modu didn't expose the lie that he and Li Feng were not from this world. Otherwise, just explaining how the two of them came together would take a lot of words. With this explanation, it is better to think about what Li Feng said before. What about changes in thinking? Kai finally understood that in addition to devils, there were all kinds of bizarre creatures in this world. He thought silently, maybe those elves and other races in myths and legends really exist in a corner of this world. The devil was eliminated, Baiman and others also knew the origin of Li Feng, and the matter came to an end. After Baiman admitted in public that Kai was already an honorable knight, Kai glanced at Li Feng and Modu, mounted his horse and turned around to leave. Looking at the direction Kai left, Li Feng scratched his eyebrows and turned to ask Modu, "Do you think this little guy will tell the Holy See about our existence?" Modu shrugged and said with a smile, "So what if you don't tell? What if you tell? Even if the Holy See knows, what will happen next?" The implication is that although the Holy See is very powerful, they will all leave this world and return to the Marvel world by then. What can the Holy See do to them? If you have the ability to go to the Marvel world to arrest these two people, let's see how Guyi can convince these stubborn heretics to death. But now that we have left, Baiman and Fersen probably won't even think about returning to their hometowns to live a stable life. In any case, Baiman and Basto looked so similar that Li Feng's conscience could not make the decision to learn swordsmanship from Baiman while cheating the other party and being run around by the Holy See. After thinking about it, Li Feng decided to tell Baiman a white lie to mislead the Holy See. As for what the Holy See would do next, Li Feng said he couldn't control that much. The mages live somewhere on the highest peak in the world, Everest. As for the specific location, Li Feng turned his head and glanced at Modu, who was about to burst out laughing, and continued to say to Baiman, "It's not convenient for us to say the specific location." Baiman nodded. He understood that Li Feng's intention of telling him about the place where the priest lived was simply because he was afraid that they would be persecuted by the Vatican, and that the Vatican would kill people to vent their anger after getting no information from them. However, after this mission of escorting witches, Baiman said that in addition to his firmer belief in God, he also no longer trusts the Holy See. The Holy See actually asked a few of them to complete such an important matter as escorting the devil. This was a major matter related to the invasion of Hell. The Holy See actually still ranked the event behind the mission of massacring heretics. Do you look down on Hell? Do you think they are too stupid, or do you know that they can destroy the devil? Fortunately, the devil was finally eliminated. If they had made any mistakes during their mission, the consequences would have been disastrous. However, Baiman is still getting angrier when thinking about the whole thing now. What do you mean, the Holy See slaughters human beings and sends a steady stream of souls to Hell? Causing the devil to have the capital to escape Hell. On the other side, the mage who was promoted as a heretic by the Vatican is taking it as his own duty to destroy the devil. Isn't it the Vatican who eliminates the devil? The mage kills humans and conducts experiments or something. How come legend and reality are so different? 1 month later, Li Feng, whose skin was all blue and purple, told Baiman with a tired look that he had learned enough sword skills and was leaving. If he didn't leave, Li Feng was afraid that he would be beaten by Baiman with the wooden sword in his hand until he could no longer take care of himself. Take a look at how Baiman taught Li Feng. He picked up 2 wooden sticks to show that he could hone his sword in actual combat. After that, Li Feng was beaten by Baiman from morning to evening every day, so that Li Feng could form muscle memory within a month of training. Baiman would also let Fersen attack Li Feng at night with a wooden stick in the middle of the night. What do you think this is? Li Feng has never had a good sleep since he came to this world. He really can't stand this kind of training method that is more cruel than Modu. It's a pity that after Baiman knew that Li Feng's opponents were all cruel and cunning alien creatures, he couldn't wait to hand over all his martial arts skills to Li Feng, no matter if Li Feng complained or not, especially since Li Feng had entrusted him to help train swordsmanship in the first place. For this kind of regarding the cultivation method that requires self-abuse, Baiman expressed that he was very happy to torture Li Feng. To explain it in Baiman's words, the teaching time is too short. So he can only use this hell-level practice method of "I'll torture you thousands of times, and you'll only break your teeth and swallow it in your stomach to make Li quickly become stronger." Especially after Modu said that he would watch Li Feng to ensure that Li Feng would not die, and cast spells to restore Li Feng's injuries after training every day, Baiman even thought of not abusing him but teaching Li Feng, hoping that Li Feng could kill more people in the future. Alien creatures ensure that humans will not suddenly become slaves of devils and other creatures one day. In this regard, Li Feng sincerely expressed his gratitude to Falson and Baiman. I thank you for your uncle maiden. After a month of abusing me, I still have to thank them. I am also cheap enough. So when 1 month was up, Li Feng couldn't wait to say goodbye to Baiman and Fersen, and summoned a blue-white light door. Before Fersen and Baiman crossed themselves on their chests and said Amen, Li Feng seemed to be running for his life. Da and Mota disappeared in front of their eyes. Returning to the Marvel world, Li Feng immediately looked at the electronic clock on his bedside. This time he was savoring the energy of quantum and portal, just to understand the different flow rates of time caused by time travel. Motu, who was vomiting again, rubbed his stomach and looked curiously at Li Feng, who had his eyes closed and looked constipated. After a while, he saw what Li Feng was doing and said faintly, "You should not only check how much energy you use when you travel, but also check the quality of the energy you use. Finally, I remind you that the location where you open the portal when you return to the local world next time, you can try the location where you landed in the other world, maybe it will help you." After a long time, Li Feng scratched his head and smiled bitterly, "My strength is still too low. It's good enough to check how much energy I use. I also want to check the quality. Let's wait a few years. Your opinion is not good. I'll try it next time I travel." Mota turned his head and glanced at Li Feng's room, and said faintly, "No need for next time, just this time. Damn, I originally wanted to go to the other world to see it, but the result is good. Not to mention the wind and rain, I went to the other world to kill a devil? If I want to kill a devil, won't I kill it in the local world? I traveled a long way to another world to kill people. Am I sick or do you have a cure? If it weren't for the last month when Berman and Fersen told me about some customs of that world, I wouldn't have seen anything this time. It was a waste." Li Feng heard that Mordo was not very satisfied with this trip to another world, and spread his hands and said, "The problem is that I don't know where we will go. Also, it seems that you want to travel again." Mordo nodded. Since he knew that the mana used by Li Feng was biased towards the dark, he could ensure that he would not hurt Li Feng and keep the problem of Li Feng's mana attribute secret, but what if other mages knew about it? There are many people in Camartage who are more knowledgeable than him. As long as Li Feng practices magic in Camartage, sooner or later others will discover the secret of mana attribute. So after knowing that Li Feng was destined to take the path of the dark camp, Mordo already knew that Li Feng would not stay in Camartage to practice magic for a long time. When Li Feng left Camartage, he didn't know how to find him. It would be better to travel to another world again to gain more knowledge. Master Guyi and I will recount our experience of traveling through time, and then we will set out for another world again. After saying that, Mordo left the room without caring what Li Feng thought, and walked towards Guyi's lounge. Li Feng smacked his lips, shrugged and muttered, "Well, I'm just an elevator attendant. I can't decide which floor to stop at. Whether I travel through time or not depends on Mordo's face." Mordo's steps left Li Feng's room hesitantly. He didn't believe that Guyi didn't see the problem of Li Feng's magic power. This was obviously Guyi's indulgence. A person who uses dark energy hides in Camartage, and allows the other party to learn a lot of Camartage spells. What does Guyi want to do? And what did Guyi teach him before? Mordo felt a little confused when he walked to Guyi's lounge. He raised his hand to knock on the door and hesitated several times but never knocked on the door. He didn't know what he was afraid of. After a long time, Guyi in the lounge sat at the tea table, waved to open the door, motioned Mordo to sit opposite him, and made tea for Mordo, smiling and saying, "You came just in time, I just boiled water, drink some tea with me." Although Mordo is black, he has lived in Camartage for many years and he also knows that the boiled water is not suitable for making tea. To make tea, you need to see what kind of tea leaves are, and then choose the right water temperature, so that the tea can be sweet aftertaste. Sitting opposite Guyi, Mordo thought about what Guyi was hinting at by making tea, while taking the small porcelain cup in his hand, and said, "Master, we met the devil on your trip to the other world this time." Guyi raised his eyebrows slightly with a slightly surprised expression, and while drinking tea, he motioned Mordo to continue. "I found that Li Feng learned magic from the devil." While speaking, Mordo has been carefully observing the changes in Guyi's expression, but except for frowning, Guyi always had a smiling expression, so Mordo could not judge how much Guyi knew about Li Feng. Seeing that Mordo stopped talking, Gu Yi put down the porcelain cup in his hand and said, water temperature of 70 to 80 degrees is suitable for brewing unfermented tea, such as green tea, because these green teas will release tea tannins when brewed with too high water temperature, making the tea soup bitter. Water temperature of 90 degrees is suitable for brewing lightly fermented tea, or tea leaves with bud tips, finely broken tea leaves, such as biluakun. Water temperature above 90 degrees is suitable for brewing medium fermented tea, that is, more mature tea, because tea with a high degree of fermentation is resistant to high temperatures and helps to release fragrance, such as high mountain tea and taiguanyan. Modu was stunned at first, then looked down at the green tea in the porcelain cup. After a long time, Modu said faintly, are you trying to tell me that nothing can be extreme? Just like using 100-degree boiling water is not suitable for brewing tea, but will destroy the tea fragrance. Gu Yi poured out the tea in the porcelain cup and said with a smile, I just want to tell you that this cup of tea doesn't taste good. Chapter 35 Reward. Li Feng didn't know what Gu Yi talked about with Mordo in the lounge. He only knew that he waited in his room for a long time but Mordo didn't return. He fell asleep in boredom. It was not until Mordo came to him with food that he realized it was already the next morning. It can be seen how tired Li Feng was tortured by more than a month of outdoor life. Mordo put down the plate in his hand and said expressionlessly, Master Gu Yi is looking for you. I hope you can take the Solomon spell book to meet Gu Yi's practice room after breakfast. After speaking, Mordo turned and left Li Feng's room. When he closed the door, he suddenly hesitated and said, I told Gu Yi about your use of time spells on the devil. Gu Yi was very surprised. She said that this was originally your spell, and she learned it from you at first. Li Feng was holding the plate, and inexplicably blinked and looked at Mordo, who was holding the door with one hand and ready to close it at any time. What does Gu Yi mean by surprise? Didn't she know that I can cast time spells? Seeing the entanglement and envy in Mordo's eyes, Li Feng somewhat understood the purpose of Mordo's saying this to him, you want to learn time magic, but you don't know how to ask? Rolling his eyes at Mordo, Li Feng smiled and walked out of the room with the plate, saying, yes, Master Gu Yi used her private collection of books as exchange. Mordo heard what Li Feng meant, if you want to learn time magic, it's fine, but what do you want to exchange? How precious and difficult is time magic to practice? Just look at who else in Kamartaj can practice this kind of magic besides Gu Yi. Mordo wants to learn it, but he is afraid that he does not have the talent to practice time magic. He gave good things to Li Feng in vain, but he can only stare at the magic book in a daze. Li Feng saw Mordo's entanglement, smiled and patted Mordo's shoulder, and said, you can learn from Gu Yi for a while, just say that I allow you. Mordo smiled awkwardly and turned away, thinking in his heart that regardless of whether he could learn time magic in the end, just because Li Feng allowed him to try to practice time magic, he should give Li Feng a gift. Li Feng had no idea what Mordo was thinking. While carrying the plate to eat breakfast, he walked all the way to Gu Yi's practice room. Outside Gu Yi's practice room, Li Feng tidied his clothes and knocked on the door gently. Come in. Li Feng entered the room, put his hands together and saluted Gu Yi respectfully, then sat cross-legged opposite Gu Yi, and handed the Solomon spell book to Gu Yi, and also handed Gu Yi his own magic book. Li Feng wanted Gu Yi to interpret the dark spells taught to him by the devil. As Gu Yi flipped through the Solomon spell book, he smiled and said, I learned from Mordo that you used the time-slowing spell to trap a demon. With a little shyness, Li Feng said slowly, the demon's power was at least weakened by more than half before it could be trapped by the time spell, and the time it was trapped was very short. This is also an amazing talent. Gu Yi looked up at Li Feng, blinked, and said, at least you can use time spells in battle. Gu Yi quickly finished reading the Solomon spell book, and said with regret, it's an interesting spell, but it's not very useful for us mages. It relies more on the power of faith in God to complete the spell. While returning the Solomon spell book to Li Feng, Gu Yi said, unless you give up your identity as a mage and become a devout priest of the church. Only ghosts want to be God's father, how handsome the magician is. With a little regret, Li Feng frowned and asked, is it useless at all? Ancient One shrugged and smiled, the spells in it rely on the power of faith, and it is not impossible to transform them into magic power, but first we need to know the principles of the spells. The problem is that this is God's book. Where can you find God to explain the principles of the spells for us? Before he finished speaking, Ancient One felt that he seemed to have said something wrong. He thought for a while and smiled bitterly, I almost forgot that others may not meet angels or God in several lifetimes, but you are different. There may be angels and God in a certain world behind you. If you can meet him, you may ask the principles of these spells. When you understand the principles, you may get the title of Devil Killer. Devil Killer can understand, after all, the main purpose of the Solomon spell book is to destroy the devil, but asking God for spells? Haha, this is really crazy. I think I should ask the devil. After all, the devil has appeared more times than God, and who knows what God's attitude is towards the use of dark energy. What if he thinks I am evil and wants to hang me up and beat me? Should I kneel down and beg for mercy or surrender with my 5 bodies prostrated? Or a dignified and heroic death? Li Feng complained inwardly while opening the magic book and handing it to Gu Yi. He pointed at the spells in the magic book and said, "These are all taught to me by the devil. I know there are problems with these spells, but I can only find some of them. For example, the devil will locate the caster, and the mind will be corrupted by darkness after using a certain spell many times. So now I can only envy, but I dare not practice any spells." Gu Yi said while checking the spells, "You are right to be cautious." Pointing to one of the plague fire spells, Gu Yi smiled and said, "For example, after this spell is used many times, your body will be infected by the extraordinary plague, and eventually the devil will sense your location and become a piece of clothes in his closet to show off." Clothes? You'd better say that the devil is possessed. When I say clothes, I feel like I'm wearing clothes, but I feel scared in my heart. I wonder if you can help me sort out these dark spells. I want to learn them. After all, Li Feng said with a bitter sigh, after all, my mana attributes leave me with no choice, and Motu has already knowing my mana problem, I guess I won't spend too much time in Kamatage. After scratching his head, Li Feng said with an embarrassed expression, as for the reward for some magic items I will collect in other worlds in the future, if you like them, I can give you some. Gu Yi actually didn't want Li Feng to be exposed to the magic taught by the devil so early. He originally thought about how to teach Li Feng step by step. Now that Li Feng wants her to help modify the magic, Gu Yi thinks that he should change the spell more thoroughly and try to change the dark spells as much as possible. It can be turned into a general-purpose spell or a spell related to darkness, which can also be regarded as giving Li Feng a transition period when he comes into contact with dark energy. Thinking of this, Gu Qi stood up, took the magic book, returned to the desk, and recorded the dozens of dark magics in the book on the paper. Then Ancient Yi returned the magic book to Li Feng and said with a smile, "Although I am satisfied with some of Motu's potential changes, Motu himself was a little disappointed with his first time travel. He felt that he did not see the wonderful things. The magical world, I hope to travel with you again." Pointing to the dark spells on the desk, Gu Yi smiled and shook his head, rejecting Li Feng's empty promise, "I will help you check and modify these spells, which is regarded as Motu's reward for borrowing your time-traveling door." This means that the Gu family does not care about Li Feng's personal collection. If someone else is asked to help modify the dark spell, Li Feng may not even have someone to help him if he sells his pants. Li Feng originally planned to take Motu through time, but he didn't expect to get an unexpected reward. Borrowing the portal was nothing. For Li Feng, it was just letting Gu Yi help for free. Thinking of this, Li Feng clasped his hands together and saluted, and said, "In this case, I will set off to another world with Motu now, but I can't control which world we go to. I hope this time travel will satisfy Motu." After bidding farewell to Gu Yi, Li Feng quickly returned to his room. Before he could open his door, he heard the noise Motu made in his room. Li Feng opened the door and saw Motu already dressed and waiting for him. After experiencing the last time travel, Motu already understood why Li Feng brought all the props he could carry. If he had brought the equipment to restrain the devil when he traveled through the first time, he would have tortured Hagma to death, and there would be no use for it. Use Solomon to weaken the devil. So this time, Motu said he had to bring some commonly used props to prevent him from encountering devils again. After all, there are too many worlds infested by devils. When Motu saw Li Feng coming back, he casually threw a cloak to Li Feng and said, "This is a constant temperature cloak. At least you can still breathe when the ice and snow come next. I don't want to see you shivering from the cold again, Master Tatu's face." There were free magic props available. Li Feng didn't know what politeness meant, so he put the cloak directly on himself, opened the crossing door behind him, and said, "Welcome Mr. Motu to board this flight. This flight will take off in 3 seconds, please hold on to the captain, and passengers who are airsick should be careful not to vomit on the captain. The clothes on the captain are very expensive." Modu silently held on to Li Feng, who had been fussing about him. The moment he rolled his eyes, Modu was swallowed up by the portal again. The two people who had just been squeezed out of the time travel door found themselves in a dirty and smelly alley. Li Feng felt that there was something wrong with Modu's character. The last time he traveled through the world was a plague-ridden world, and the sanitary conditions were so poor. A world where people are not allowed to take baths has now become an alleyway where garbage is piled up and rats collectively dance square dance in front of you. Uncle Modu, have you not washed your face for a long time and your face is too dark? Why did I get into trouble with the smell when I traveled through time with you? On the side, Modu, who was vomiting a little, rubbed his belly and asked, where is this? Li Feng rolled his eyes and replied, Earth. Modu, of course I know it's the Earth. If you want to travel to an alien planet, you must have that ability. Before the two of them walked out of the alley, Modu suddenly grabbed Li Feng and hid in the corner, whispering, it smells like the devil. It was the devil last time, and meet the devil again this time? Sure enough, I'm afraid you not only haven't washed your face, but you haven't showered in several years, and your whole body is moldy. Li Feng, who glanced at Modu, was speechless and cursed in his heart, can't there be a simpler world? I'm such a novice, how can I travel to the devil's world? After waiting for a while, Li Feng saw a man with scars on his face walking into the alley holding two short metal sticks. At the same time, a middle-aged man with Mediterranean hair bared his teeth and attacked the scarred man from the darkness. Unfortunately, the Mediterranean man was too weak for the scar man. He was directly subdued by the scar man and roared like a beast. At this time, Li Feng understood who the devil in Modu's mouth was without even checking the magic weapon. Chapter 36 Demon Slayer. When the scarred man asked the devil, Nobilis, where is he? Li Feng quietly poked Modu, who was a little dazed, and said, want to help kill the devil. Modu squinted at the scarred man, shook his head slightly and said, there's something wrong with that man. He has no soul, only a spirit body. Li Feng was stunned. Isn't the spirit body just the projection of the soul? If the soul is gone, where can the spirit body come from? It's like there is no entity, no matter how the light shines, there will be no shadow. In this weird world, aren't soulless people just the legendary living corpses? Modu seemed to guess what Li Feng was thinking, shook his head and said, the other party's spirit shows that he is intelligent, so he is not a ghoul or a zombie, but some kind of creature that I don't know. At this time, a policeman suddenly broke into the alley and was about to relieve himself. He saw the scarred man preparing to kill the devil. The policeman could not see that the Mediterranean man was a devil. Out of duty, the policeman immediately drew his gun and pointed at the scarred man. Said, police, put down your weapons. The police's voice made the scarred man turn to look at the other person and block the devil in front of him to prevent the police from shooting suddenly. The devil thought this was an opportunity, and immediately used all his strength to break away from the scarred man and then rushed towards the policeman. The policeman was a little confused, what is going on? Before the policeman could figure out what was going on, the devil had already broken the policeman's neck and fled away. Li Feng squinted at the scarred man who was chasing the devil, and the symbol on the metal short stick in the scarred man's hand. He recognized what the mark was, and it was the weapon of the stone-winged beast. So this is the world of the Demon Slayer. If I guessed correctly, the one who was chasing the devil just now was Adam, a man resurrected by a human scientist using fragmented internal organs. Seeing that Adam had gone far away, Li Feng walked out of the hiding corner and said curiously, you just said that he has no soul. How did you see that? Modu, who was still wondering what kind of novel species Adam was, looked at Li Feng with squinting eyes and said, I think you must not have studied spiritual magic well. I really want to specialize in research. Ask that stinky librarian to lend me the book on inner spiritual spells. Shrugging, Li Feng said helplessly, you'd better tell me how you saw it. Modu actually regretted it when he finished speaking. He had forgotten that Li Feng was not Kamatage's mage. With a little apology, Modu explained to Li Feng, humans have souls and matching bodies, but creatures like devils cannot the same, or in other words, they have no body. If they want to survive in the human world, they must have a body. This causes a mismatch between the devil and the body after possession, and the spirit body presented is different from that of normal humans. Just like the seven-color rainbow is actually the projection of sunlight, the projection of the soul as a spirit body also has many colors. Modu pointed at Li Feng's hair and skin and said, just like I can see black hair, yellow skin, and white eyes after your spirit body leaves the body, but creatures such as devils and ghouls are dead. Their spirits are only black and white. Modul looked in the direction Adam left and said, but although the spirit body of that person just now is also colorful, there are big gaps between each color. Can you imagine that the 7 colors of a rainbow are separated by a certain distance? Touching his chin, Modul guessed faintly, the soul and the body are closely related and influence each other. Plus I see scars all over his body. Why do I think that guy is a suture monster? It's just that the body is full of activity and causes a black and white spirit body. Fusion of colorful colors. Li Feng scratched his eyebrows. You are awesome, you can guess that this person was really born as a stitch monster, but his soul emerged later. Wait, since the soul and body influence each other, then Adam's spirit body is colorful. Doesn't it mean that Adam's body is about to give birth to a soul? Patting Li Feng on the shoulder, Modul said, let's go, let's follow the scarred man. In my mind, the Stitch monster is an inhuman creature. If he is bloodthirsty on the streets, we can stop him. Li Feng thought for a while, nodded and followed Adam. There are actually quite a lot of things that Li Feng is interested in this world. The first is the experimental notes left by Victor Frankenstein, Adam's creator, when he resurrected Adam. If Li Feng could get this notebook, and he thought he could do an experiment with cats and dogs, and raise an immortal pet for fun. To get this experimental notebook, all you need to do is follow the plot and keep an eye on Adam. There are also stone-winged beasts. Li Feng is also curious about what species they are. Are they really created by the Archangel Michael? The two hadn't chased him out for long when they saw Adam neatly kill a devil who was helping the Mediterranean devil. On the side, Modul frowned and muttered, it's as simple as eating and drinking to send a devil's soul back to hell. His strength and speed are far superior to humans. The most important thing is that he has reason. This is by no means as simple as a living corpse. Then, the Mediterranean devil seemed to understand that he was no match for Adam and hurriedly climbed onto the roof to escape. Adam turned his head and glanced at Li Feng and Modul, and hurriedly caught up with them on the roof. Unfortunately, when he climbed onto the roof, he was only able to escape quickly enough to avoid the demon escaping into an old castle-shaped building. Adam, who already knew that he could not catch up with the devil, held a short stick, turned his head and looked at Modul and Li Feng who were also on the roof, and said, "Who are you? Devils? Or humans?" Neither Modul nor Li Feng paid attention to Adam, but looked at a tall monastery in the distance. Li Feng scratched his brows. He felt that the world was a little crazy. There was such a big castle in the city and no one noticed that the statues on it were alive. How blind is this? Modul pointed at the Stone-Yuing Beast Monastery, turned to Adam and said, "Where is that? I can feel that there is a layer of sacred energy protecting it." Modul's words made Adam clearly understand that the two people in front of him were definitely not ordinary humans. Ordinary humans could not see the energy barrier protecting the monastery. Also hearing Modul's words was a stone-winged beast who spied on Adam chasing the devil in front of humans. He thought about it and decided to meet this human who gave him a sense of danger, especially Li Feng. He sensed that Li Feng's body of dark energy. The stone-winged beast landed quietly in front of Modul, turning from an ugly monster like a grey-white stone sculpture into a human in an instant, and said, "Who are you?" Li Feng on the side felt insulted. "You know Adam, so you don't say hello." "I can understand this, but there are two people besides Adam at the scene. You just ask who Modul is." "What about me? Isn't the rookie mage a mage?" Before Li Feng could finish his slander, the stone-winged beast turned to stare at Li Feng's pocket and said doubtfully, "What's in your pocket?" "Pocket?" Li Feng subconsciously touched the pocket containing the Solomon spell book, and suddenly remembered that the legendary Solomon's Key was a spell book written by an angel. The stone-winged beast in front of him was also a subordinate of an angel, so he could naturally sense the Key of Solomon. The presence. Li Feng glanced at Modul, who was secretly on guard against the stone-winged beasts. He thought for a moment and took out the Key of Solomon from his pocket and said, "Hello, we are traveling mages. My name is Austin, and he is my partner Mordo." Li Feng handed the Key of Solomon to the stone-winged beast and said, "This is a spell book I got during a trip, but I can't understand the principles of the spells on it. Can you help me?" The stone-winged beast carefully took the Key of Solomon. He knew it was an angel's spell book just by the energy he sensed by touch. After casually flipping through it, he returned the Key of Solomon to Li Feng and said, "My name is Ofer, and my knowledge is not enough to explain the principles of magic to you. If you want to understand the magic, it is best to go to the Stonyuing Monastery to find our queen. As for now, I still have something to do." Then, Ofer said to Adam in a rude tone, "Our war with the devil should not be discovered by humans. What about you? You took action in the human world and indirectly killed a policeman." Without waiting for Adam to refute, Ofer returned to the appearance of the stone-winged beast, grabbed Adam's feet and flew to the stone-winged beast monastery. Before leaving, Ofer said to Modu and Li Feng, "I will wait for your arrival at the stone-winged beast monastery." Modu, who had been on guard all the time, saw Ofer flying away and took a long breath and said, "Although he looks ugly, I feel that he also does not have a complete soul. The body is more like a combat puppet, and the soul is the driver member." "Li Feng, do you know what a stone-winged beast is?" Modu touched his chin, narrowed his eyes at Li Feng, and said, "I always feel that you know a lot of things. How do you want me to answer? That I learned about it through movies?" Shrugging, Li Feng curled his lips and said, "I heard some legends about stone-winged beasts in other worlds. Legend has it that stone-winged beasts are the legion of Archangel Michael to deal with the devil." After a pause, Li Feng touched the key of Solomon and said, "I want to go to the stone-winged beast monastery to visit. What about you? Do you want to come together?" Modu silently walked to the roof, looked at the building where the demons had escaped, and said, "Let's go together. I feel that this world will be very interesting, with stone-winged beasts and a lot of demons." Devil Li Feng glanced at the castle-like building and muttered in his heart, "Is this the laboratory of the devil Prince Nobilis?" He built a laboratory under the eyes of the stone-winged beast. Since the stone-winged beast has not noticed, it should be said that he is a creature with a broken soul, but his brain just doesn't work well. Modu and Li Feng came from time travel, and the rules of time travel are that you can't carry anything except magic-related items. Money is naturally on the list of things that are not allowed to be carried, so Li Feng can only look at the towering monastery in the distance speechlessly. Moving forward with your own feet. When Li Feng and Modu arrived at the Stonyuing Monastery, Ofer had already followed Leonor, queen of the Stonyuings, waiting at the door for the arrival of the two mages. After the two parties briefly introduced themselves, Leonor invited Li Feng to enter the monastery, but Li Feng did not expect that. As soon as he and Modu entered the monastery, Leonor waved and closed the door, and said to Li Feng in a bad tone, "Who are you?" Chapter 37 The Devil and the Stone-Winged Beast Monastery. Li Feng was a little confused. Didn't he introduce himself before? Why did you suddenly fall out? Modu on the side guessed the reason, smiled and whispered, "Think about the priesthood of the Stonyuing beast? I'm thinking about your mana." Li Feng was stunned for a moment, and swore with twitching lips, "Maiden, I am born with magic power. What can I do about you, Ofer? Even though you have an honest plaster face, you are quite insidious at heart. I guess you can't beat Modu, so you invited me to your base camp. You want to win by quantity, right? Unfortunately, I think you are a fool. In your eyes, I am the one who sent you to your door automatically." Glancing at the humanoid stone-winged beasts surrounding him, Li Feng thought for a while and felt that in this world that could lead to the Archangel Michael's territory, it would be better for him to make it clear to Leonor, who could contact Michael. Then a lot of trouble suddenly appeared. Li Feng took a deep breath, and while demonstrating Kamatage's shield to show his identity as a mage, he said calmly, "We are mage from another world. We come to your world through magic to increase our knowledge. As for my mana problem," Li Feng said calmly. He spread his hands and said helplessly, "This is a natural energy attribute, and there is nothing I can do about it." Leonor knew that this world connected hell and heaven, and also knew that there were many worlds connecting hell and heaven, so she understood the word travel. The only thing she didn't expect was that one day she would encounter travelers from another world, or two humans. In her impression, except for angels and devils who would travel to other worlds from time to time to show the power of gods or demons, weak creatures like humans had little to do with time travel. Even powerful mages could not break the space crystal wall. And no matter how you look at it, Li Feng and Modu are not the kind of mages who are powerful enough to break through crystal walls. Either the two of them are lying, or maybe they rely on some treasure to travel through time. Considering that different worlds have different rules, Leonor cannot be sure that Li Feng, who uses dark energy, is the enemy. It is said that the eyes are the window to the soul. Leonor looked at Li Feng's eyes seriously. After a while, he motioned the stone-winged beast to put down the weapon in his hand and said, Energy attribute does not equal character. I see humanity in your eyes. I believe you are not an evil mage, but for safety reasons, I asked Ofer to stay with you during your stay in our world. Li Feng nodded to express his understanding. He didn't care whether Ofer was monitoring or protecting him. He never wanted to cause trouble from the beginning. He quietly waited for the plot to develop, and then returned to the Marvel world after getting Frankenstein's experimental notes. It's that simple. As for Modo, he came here to gain knowledge, and the most powerful way in the world for Modo to gain knowledge and change the attitude of people with the dark side was to be imprisoned in the monastery. Believing in a Stitch monster who was born with a dark side but with humanity, and finally Adam produced a soul and joined the team of sacred stone-winged beasts to fight against the devil, Mordo's expression must be very exciting, which is in line with Ancient One's desire for Mordo to change someone some extreme ideas. Let's see how you say that the dark side is evil. Thinking of this, Li Feng took out the Key of Solomon from his pocket and handed it to Leonor, saying, "While you are in the monastery, can you help me explain the magic principles of this spell book?" The contents of Solomon's Key are all related to fighting against the devil. Leonor felt that Li Feng's learning of such spells would only threaten the devil more, and their stone-winged beasts could also learn some methods to restrain the devil while helping Li Feng explain these spells. This is a win-win situation. Leonor handed the Key of Solomon to Ofer and said, "Ofer can help you explain some simple spells. After you learn these simple spells and have a certain understanding of angel spells, I will explain them to you." Advanced Angelic Magic. Li Feng looked at the expressionless Ofer. "What did you say before? I don't understand the magic recorded by Solomon. I remember believing that it is recorded in the Bible that people cannot lie, so this ability to tell lies with open eyes was taught to you by Michael? Do you want to drag Michael to hell? Relative." Ofer ignored Li Feng's eyes and stretched out his hand to signal Li Feng to go to the lounge. As for Modu, his gentle magic power already showed that he was different from Li Feng, so rather than Li Feng, Leonor wanted to chat with the friendly Modu and inquire about Li Feng's character from the side. But before Li Feng could go far, a stone-winged beast hurriedly ran to Leonor and said, "Queen, the devil was found near the church." Leonor frowned and asked, "How many devils are there?" "At least 50 devils. The monastery has been erected here for who knows how many years. The devil has long known the location of the monastery, but the devil has dared to attack the monastery only a handful of times." Leonor instantly realized that the devil attacked the monastery for Adam, but she didn't understand why the devil Prince Nobilis was so interested in Adam that he wanted to get Adam at the expense of his men. But now is not the time to solve the puzzle. Leonor turned to the stone-winged beast and said, "Protect Adam, and the remaining people are ready to kill the devil and protect Adam." Li Feng curled his lips. He knew the reason why Nobilis attacked the monastery, but what did he say? It is said that Nobilis secretly collects human corpses around the world, hoping that his army of hell will possess these dead people and then occupy the earth. Just because the body of the dead is not suitable for possession by the devil, Nobilis wants to know the secret of why Adam's body is full of activity but has no soul, so that he can resurrect the human corpses he collected as props for the devil's possession, and because of the resurrected body without a soul, these possessed demons can exert 100% of their power on earth. Nobilis has been looking for Adam's whereabouts over the years, until today when Ofer brought Adam back to the monastery. He was seen by a devil and informed Nobilis, so the devil attacked the monastery. It is estimated that as soon as Li Feng said these words, Leonor first tied up Li Feng and asked him how he knew this and whether he was with Nobilis. Li Feng glanced at Leonor's back and said silently in his heart, "It is true that Nobilis's purpose was to capture Adam, but the devils used a strategy of making false claims in the east and attacking in the west. They captured you and used it to threaten Shii to get rid of them. Want. It is said that the devil has not been in the world for so many years. When did he read Sun Tzu's Art of War and other military books and learn to use strategies? Why is he playing tricks of attacking in the east and in the west?" When Modo learned about the devil's attack, he had already drawn his weapon and was preparing to join the army to destroy the devil. However, Li Feng could not gain the trust of the stone-winged beast due to mana issues. In addition, Li Feng's rookie strength had limited effect in the battle, so Ofer as he drew his weapon, he said to Li Feng, "I'll take you to a safe place first, and then I'll go out and kill the devil." Is this being looked down upon? While Li Feng obediently followed Ofer and ran to a safe place, he cursed, "It's not just 50 devils who are attacking the monastery this time. Their number is far beyond your imagination. The most important thing is whether you underestimate me too much. Already? I have the Solomon Book of Spells to restrain the devil. Li Feng, led by Ofer, killed the devils who broke into the monastery. At this time, Ofer had noticed that the number of devils attacking the monastery was far beyond imagination. Otherwise, the monastery gate guarded by many companions would not have allowed so many devils break into the monastery. Entering the so-called safe place, Li Feng pointed at Adam, who was locked in a chair and could not move, and said, "Is this the safe place you said? Doesn't Maiden know that the devil's ultimate goal is to get Adam? With him, I'm not as safe as hell." Looking at the pillars of light soaring into the sky outside the window, Adam knew that this was a sign that the stone-winged beast would return to heaven after being killed. He also guessed that the number of devils coming to the monastery would not be small this time. At the same time, he understood that the stone-winged beast that was guarding him could not resist it. Devils in numbers. Adam glanced at Li Feng and shouted loudly, "Ofer, give me the weapon, I want to protect myself." Considering that there are too many devils, it is always good to have one more power to kill them. Ophelisso split the chains that imprisoned Adam and gave Adam a weapon. Adam broke free from the chains and got the weapon, and he immediately took the weapon and killed the devil. Li Feng took out his playing cards and shot several devils who bared their teeth at him. He looked at Adam with a thoughtful look. He knew that Adam learned about the devil's plot in the subsequent battle and obtained Frankenstein's experimental notes. "It seems like it's easier for me to get experimental notes if I follow Adam." Li Feng looked at Ofer again, who was fighting the devil, and thought, "How about I get rid of Ofer and follow Adam to take advantage?" On the other side, Nobilis's general, Julier, led several elite devils to sneak around the stone-winged beast, broke into Leonor, and successfully kidnapped the queen of the stone-winged beast. Several stone-winged beasts who discovered that Julier had kidnapped their queen roared in anger, but with their queen in Julier's hands, they could do nothing but express their anger. Soon, the stone-winged beast spread the news to Ofer's ears that the queen was kidnapped. At the same time, Li Feng, who was beside Ofer, also knew the news. Li Feng's mouth was slightly raised, thinking, "It's time to express his goodwill. I believe that in order to express his gratitude, the stone-winged beast will concentrate on helping me explain the principles of the magic on the Key of Solomon." Thinking of this, Li Feng handed the Solomon spell book to Ofer and said, "I've given this book to you. I think this spell book can have the desired effect in your hands." Does Li Feng care about the original Solomon spell book? Neither care nor care, because Li Feng had already copied all the spells in the magic book, and all he needed was to find someone to analyze the spells. Ofer glanced at Li Feng. He knew how precious this spell book was to the stone-winged beast. It was simply a nuclear weapon against the devil. After receiving the Key of Solomon and saying thank you, Ofer returned to the posture of a grey-white stone-winged beast, flapped his wings and soared into the sky. Chapter 38 Chapter 38 Devil, Stitched Monster, Mage, Woman. Ofer flew high in the sky without attracting the attention of the devils. It was not until Ofer opened the Key of Solomon, found the corresponding spell and read it out loud that the devils on the ground felt something was wrong. But it was too late. Ofer called God for help. God said that he received it and promptly transmitted a huge amount of energy to Ofer along with faith. In the air, Ofer, whose skin was originally grayish-white, began to turn into a holy milky white with a white glow under the blessing of powerful energy. The whole person was like a bright energy-saving light bulb, illuminating the entire monastery. As Ofer finished reading the spell, an invisible energy shock spread outward from Ofer. The devil who noticed the Ofer brand light bulb first wondered why the stone-winged beast had evolved into a luminous beast, and then watched the energy shock pass through his body helplessly. Some weak devils were directly killed by the energy shock and sent back to hell. The stronger devils were not easy either, and they looked extremely weak after the energy shock. The stone-winged beasts on the side didn't care why the devils became weaker under the energy impact. They only knew that they would feel guilty if they missed such a good opportunity, so they chopped down the group of scum devils with their knives. At this time, Li Feng quietly hid in a corner, watching Mordo, who was sweating after killing many devils in the corner, and a devil who broke into the monastery farther away, whose strength was greatly reduced under the energy impact, and unfortunately met Adam with a murderous look on his face. Mordo hid in the corner to observe Adam, just out of curiosity. He was curious about how an inhuman stitched monster would deal with this unlucky devil. Adam beat the devil without much effort and asked, "Where is Nobilis?" The devil sneered, "They are waiting for you." Adam was stunned, "What do you mean? What are they waiting for me?" The devil wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and smiled, "We know that the stone-wing beast will do its best to protect you in order to prevent you from falling into our hands, but the number of stone-wing beasts is too small, which can easily lead to them relaxing their protection of the Stonewing Beast Queen, allowing Julier to kidnap the Queen. In exchange, as long as the stone wings you, we will release the Queen. Adam knew that Leonor could communicate with the Archangel Michael and was the spiritual leader of the Stonewing Beasts. The Stonewing Beasts would definitely exchange themselves for Leonor. Similarly, Adam also knew that he was neither a Stonewing Beast nor a human being, but just a monster created by humans without a soul. But Leonor, who knew clearly that he was born, had a very good attitude towards him. At least she did not kill him immediately after catching him, but gave him self-defense weapons to destroy the devil and told him a lot of principles of being a human being. So from the bottom of his heart, Adam still hoped that he could rescue Leonor. Seeing the devil talking about how he was just a monster in Leonor's eyes, Adam couldn't help but curse nonsense in his heart, and then used his fists in holy water to force the devil to tell him the location of Leonor's exchange. Watching Adam running out of the monastery alone, ready to rescue Leonor, Mordo felt something indescribable in his heart. Is Adam, who was born without following the laws of nature, really evil? Will he destroy the balance of nature? The Stonewing Beast, who guards the human world, knew that Adam had no soul and was just a thinking zombie. Not only did he not kill Adam on the spot, he didn't even have the most basic imprisonment, but chose to let Adam go, gave him weapons and let him survive alone. Was Leonor's approach right or wrong? Until Adam's back disappeared, Li Feng decided to give Mordo a dose of strong medicine. He walked to Mordo, who was confused, and said, "The stone-winged beasts in this world are the legions of angels. Since the stone-winged beasts know Adam, does it mean that God may also know Adam's existence? But do you see how God reacts?" Spreading his hands, Li Feng said, although Adam was not created by God, he did not deprive Adam of his right to survive. At least he allowed Adam to live freely for more than 200 years. And others can't see it, can you? Adam's spiritual color is already at the critical point. As long as he crosses that step, Adam will have a soul. Then he will not be a monster, but a human being with extraordinary power. After saying that, Li Feng didn't care whether Mordo would figure it out, and ran fast on his own and hung behind Adam. On the other side, the Queen was hijacked, and Gideon became the highest commander of the stone-winged beasts. After Adam ran out of the monastery and disappeared, Gideon was reluctant to exchange Frankenstein's experimental notes for their queen, but his decision was not recognized by his companions. Mordo was deeply entangled in the Stonewing beasts' quarrel over whether to exchange the lab notebook for the queen. On one hand, the evil stitched monster went alone to save the Stonewing beast's queen, and on the other hand, the righteous Stonewing beast, because he couldn't afford to gamble with the queen's life, decisively exchanged the Frankenstein lab notebook that the devil wanted for the queen after finding no trace of Adam. Mordo said that he couldn't understand this world. If he was a Stonewing beast, he wouldn't care about the queen or not. Once he handed over the lab notebook that the devil wanted, the consequences would be much more serious than losing a queen. In comparison, it was the right choice to let Gideon hold the Key of Solomon and gather troops to kill into the devil's lair. If the queen died unfortunately, it was fate, and no one could be blamed. It's a pity that Mordo knew that he was always an outsider. These stone-winged beasts would not listen to his advice, and he heard Gideon say, "Leonor is the only one among us who can contact the Archangel Michael. He is our spirit leader." Mordo clearly felt that the stone-winged beasts around him had internally agreed with Gideon's plan to exchange the experimental notes for Leonor. Mordo could only sit there and have a headache silently. When Gideon flew to the Warden Theatre where he exchanged Leonor with his experimental notebook, Adam, who ran on two legs, had just reached the door of the theatre. In the distance, Li Feng put his hands on his knees and gasped for air. He watched Gideon flying out of the theatre with Leonor. He couldn't help complaining, "Maiden, it's amazing how you can fly. It was obviously Adam and I who left the monastery first. Yeah, it's better now, you fly over directly and complete the transaction, then I run to the door of the theatre." After a while, Li Feng, who felt that his physical strength had recovered, was about to sneak into the theatre to check the situation when he saw a devil running out of the theatre quickly with a notebook. Then, Adam ran out of the theatre panting heavily. After identifying the direction he walked along, the devil followed him all the way to escape. Li Feng scratched his brows and trotted helplessly behind Adam. "Although my physical fitness is pretty good among ordinary people, you are either devils or stitch monsters. Won't your physical strength gauge be reduced? Or have you discovered me and want to tire me out by running around? Just wait, I must strengthen my physical exercise after I return to the Marvel world. Sooner or later, I will exhaust you all by running a marathon. Li Feng watched Adam track the devil to Nobilis' lair, and neatly sent the gatekeeper devil back to hell. Adam carefully broke into the devil's lair while observing the surroundings. Li Feng, who felt that he was about to foam at the mouth, was no longer ready to follow him. First of all, Li Feng's strength did not allow him to break into the devil's lair. This was the devil's lair. Who knows how many devils there were in it? Li Feng didn't think he had the strength to defeat the devil. There was a killing spree in the lair. If Li Feng broke in with a stupid idea, he might kill whom? Secondly, there is no need to waste the little physical energy. Li Feng remembers that after Adam broke into the devil's lair, he understood the reason why Nobilis resurrected the corpse, and recovered Frankenstein's notebook and escaped safely. After reading the experimental notes, Adam returned to the devil's lair and followed Dr. Wade, who helped Nobilis resurrect the corpse. He hoped that Dr. Wade could help him complete what Frankenstein had promised him and create a soulless person like him. Monster, he has been alone in this world for 200 years, and he needs a companion. So Li Feng felt that he should just wait for Dr. Wade outside the devil's lair, which would be safe, and get the experimental notebook. As night fell, Li Feng, who was hiding in the distance, saw a blonde woman walking out of the devil's lair angrily. At first, Li Feng was not sure that this woman was the Dr. Wade he was looking for, but then Li Feng saw Adam also appearing in the distance, and quietly followed the blonde woman. What Adam didn't see was that not long after he left with Wade, a devil in black leather walked out of his lair and quietly followed Wade. Li Feng curled his lips and followed Adam quietly, complaining in his heart, "Miss Wade, shouldn't you feel honored that a devil, a Stitch monster, and a mage all chose to follow you at the same time? What's more important, what's wrong is that none of our three extraordinary beings want your life." When Wade noticed that someone was following him, Adam also noticed that a devil was following him. He immediately walked up to Wade to identify himself and asked Wade to follow him. On the way, Li Feng listened to Adam while suppressing a smile. Telling about the things between the monastery and the devil, Wade looked confused when he heard it. "I am a scientist. Do you think I will believe you and the unscientific devils and angels, as well as the stone-winged beasts who don't know what they are?" Wade felt that something was wrong with Adam's mind when he was used as a guinea pig to reanimate corpses. When Adam told Wade that her boss was the Devil Prince, Wade looked at Adam differently, with an expression that showed how funny your brain was. Li Feng said that he was amused by Wade's emoticon and couldn't help laughing. Adam kicked open the back door of an abandoned factory. When he heard Li Feng's laughter, he thought it was the devil chasing after him. He quickly protected Wade behind him and shouted to the shadow, "Come out." Li Feng walked out of the dark corner with a smile and said, "Adam, I'm sorry, you just told Dr. Wade about the devil and the stone-winged beast. It's strange that she would believe it." "It's you," Adam breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that it was Li Feng who was following him. At the same time, he pulled Wade into the abandoned factory and said to Li Feng, "But what I said is true. As a mage, you are not only I saw with my own eyes how the devils attacked the monastery and shot many of them myself." Chapter 39 Chapter 39 Notes received. The title of mage made Wade subconsciously look at Li Feng twice. "I don't know what material the cloak is made of, and I have a pair of boots that are hundreds of years out of date. The most important thing is my belly and the long knife on my waist." The mage actually has a long knife with his belly stuck out. "Where's the staff? Where's the promised staff?" This is definitely not the mage with a white beard in my impression, but just like Adam, he is a lunatic. Facing Wade's strange look, Li Feng just shrugged to express his disbelief, thinking, "You will know later whether I am a mage." Counting the time, the sound of Adam kicking the back door before should have attracted the devil. Before Adam and Wade walked out of the abandoned factory, the devil Julie suddenly broke into the abandoned factory. While returning to his devilish appearance, he shouted at Adam, "Frankenstein!" On the side, Wade looked blankly as flames suddenly burst out of Julier's head, revealing his ferocious face. Li Feng took out his playing cards, patted Wade on the shoulder who was completely ruined, and said, "Look, devil, do you want to drag him into the laboratory and have him dissected?" When Adam heard Julier's cry, he had already pulled out two metal short sticks, rushed towards the devil and said to Li Feng, "Protect Wade and leave." Li Feng casually shot a playing card at Julier, locked Wade in the mirror space with a snap of his fingers, and said, "It would be great to leave Gondon and work together to kill this devil." After saying that, Li Feng took out the playing cards to assist Adam, and secretly prepared the time spell. As long as he saw the opportunity, he would put the time spell in his hand on Julier's face. Li Feng wanted to see, this one was obviously not. Can the powerful devil break free from the prison of time spell? Julier was originally much stronger and more experienced than Adam. If Li Feng's playing cards hadn't hit his face from time to time, causing a buzz in his mind like a fly, he felt that it was only time for him to kill Adam. Question. Julier, who noticed that Li Feng's playing cards only had a range of 10 meters, thought about it and felt that if he rushed towards Li Feng now, Adam would definitely pester him and find an opportunity to give him one. You must know that Adam's power is not small. Who knows this? If he would be concussed with one blow, it would be better to change the battlefield. Thinking of this, Julier noticed the collapse of the factory floor not far away and stepped back while fighting. When Adam was not paying attention, he kicked Adam downstairs. Is Li Feng's spell range only 10 meters? Nonsense, who has ever seen a mage shoot a spell 10 meters away and then the spell dissipates? Li Feng is just used to precise control of playing cards and showing weakness to the devil. Now, Li Feng's time spell is ready, and he is just waiting for an opportunity to fool Julier in the face. Seeing that Julier ignored his playing cards and was about to jump downstairs to kill Adam, Li Feng raised his hand and shot the spell immediately. I saw a ball of water like magic instantly wrapping around Julier, who had just jumped up. At the same time, Li Feng quickly drew out his long knife and rushed to Julier's side. He waved the long knife that was lit with fire in his hand and slashed Julier's head with one blow. Head. Seeing Julier's soul turning into a ball of fire and drilling into the ground, and his bones turning into dust, Li Feng breathed a sigh of relief, looked at Adam along the edge of the collapse, and said, "Man, he didn't die." After saying that, Li Feng opened the portal connecting the mirror space and took the confused Wade out of the space. Although outsiders cannot detect the mirror space, people in the mirror space can see everything that happens in the outside world, so Wade walked out of the mirror space and took deep breaths, while rubbing his face and muttering to himself, "First, Adam is alive." After hundreds of years, the people around the boss turned into demons, and finally a mage who could shoot fire cards appeared. Is this still the world I am familiar with? Li Feng curled his lips and said contemptuously, "As a doctor, can't we think of devils as aliens? And isn't magic just an unknown science?" "Science?" Wade said, as if you were kidding me. Then use science to explain how you just made the cards burn when they collided with the devil and hit the devil. Li Feng stretched out his hand and cast a spell on his palm to summon a small flame, and said, "Don't flames appear when molecules vibrate and rub?" Wade was a little speechless. Of course she knew that flames would appear when molecules vibrated, but the question was, how did Li Feng control the molecular vibrations? Wade took a deep breath and asked, "There are many people who know that molecular vibrations can burn, but has anyone become a mage for this?" Mental power. Li Feng spread his hands and explained, "You can understand it as brain waves, infinite radio waves, etc. When you understand and use brain waves, you will find that magic is as simple as changing TV stations with a remote control." At this time, Adam, who had been kicked downstairs by Julier, staggered back to Li Feng and asked curiously, "What kind of magic is the last move? Why is Julier like in slow motion in a movie?" Li Feng explained casually, "The time-slowing spell. As long as it is hit by the spell, the flow of time around the creature will slow down." Wade, who initially believed in the relationship between magic and science, said blankly, "Time? Can current science explain time? How do you slow down time? Can you still travel through time and go back to the past or the future?" "Maiden, I shouldn't have said to scientists that magic is an unknown science. Now, it has aroused the interest of a scientist to find out more. Time is related to quantum energy." After explaining, Li Feng turned to look at Adam and said, "Man, are you sure it's appropriate for us to chat in this abandoned factory now? Are you afraid that Nobilis will send more demons to hunt you down?" In fact, without Li Feng's reminder, Adam had already pulled Wade, who was about to ask how quantum energy manipulates time, away and prepared to return to his dilapidated hut. Back in the dilapidated hut, Wade looked at Li Feng with a curious look while treating the wound of the meat shield warrior Adam. Adam endured the pain caused by Wade stitching his wound, and asked Li Feng, "Why are you following me?" Li Feng leaned against the wall, shrugged and said, "I am curious about you and the Frankenstein notebook that can revive corpses. You also know that I am a magician. In our eyes, you are like a stitched monster resurrected by magic, but you are intelligent, and the wizard's stitched monster is not intelligent." After thinking for a while, Li Feng said to Adam with angry eyes, if you are angry about the name of stitched monster, I can apologize. In fact, I don't know what species to call you for the time being. For the time being. Wade, who was busy stitching Adam's wound, heard Li Feng's confusion and said, "What does this mean?" Li Feng walked in front of Adam, half squatted and looked at Adam at eye level, pointed to his eyes and said, "I don't know if you have felt the changes in yourself, but I found that your body has bred a soul, but now the soul is trapped in the eggshell, and I don't know when it will be born, so I can only say for the time being. As for the future, you must be a human being, an extraordinary person with a long lifespan." Human beings. After saying that, Li Feng looked at the experimental notebook on Adam's waist, slowly reaching for the experimental notebook, and said, "I am very curious, how did Frankenstein make you wise, and what caused you to give birth to a soul now? Is it time? Or what?" When Adam heard Li Feng say that he was about to have a soul, he was already stunned and completely immersed in joy. He didn't come back to his senses until Li Feng's hand touched the notebook. However, Adam did not stop Li Feng's behavior, but asked with a tangled face, "Are you sure you saw my soul?" Holding the experimental notebook, Li Feng took a few steps back, opened the notebook and recorded the contents in the magic book, and said, "Sure, if you don't believe it, you can try to commit suicide and see if your soul will float out." Wade, who was reshaping his three views, thought, "Since the devil and the angel have appeared, I can still accept that a wizard and a stitched monster are talking about souls. I just don't know if my soul will go to heaven after I die after working for the Devil Prince for so many years, or continue to work for Nobilis in hell." When Wade heard Li Feng's proposal, he rolled his eyes and said, "People are dead, so what if they know there is a soul? Let him die." Li Feng looked up at Wade and said, "Don't you have it? Just revive Adam's body." After a while, Li Feng threw the experimental notes to Wade and said, "Look, there are so many creative ideas in it." Li Feng said this, expressing an expression that he was very good and a great scholar, and he could understand the contents of the notes at a glance, but in his heart, "I can't understand the notes, I'm uneducated, I apologize. How does Frankenstein use the current of the electric eel to revive the body? Which great god can help me explain it? Now it's good, if I don't apply for university entrance examination and study for a few years in the Marvel world, I can't create an immortal pet." Wade took the notes curiously and sat at the head of the bed to read them, and Adam, who didn't know whether he was careless or consumed too much in the battle with Julier, fell asleep in a short while and snored. Li Feng scratched his brow. Now that he had the contents of the notebook, he should withdraw. Li Feng believed that his current small body could not participate in the battle between Adam, the stone-winged beast and the devil. Li Feng coughed lightly, signaling Wade to turn his attention from the experimental notes to him. Unfortunately, he underestimated Wade's obsession with the notebook. Wade said without raising his head, "Mr. Austin, do you have anything to do?" Li Feng, "Nothing, just to tell you that I have been out for a long time and now I have to go back to the monastery to meet up with my companions." Wade looked up at Li Feng, waved his hand like a fly and said, "Okay, I will tell Adam." Li Feng thought about it and kindly reminded, "In this world, human life is a gift from God, and you are just an ordinary person, but you have stepped into the realm of God. Take care of yourself." After speaking, Li Feng opened the portal and disappeared in front of Wade. As for Wade's still interested research on resurrecting corpses, or burning the experimental notes after reflection, it was none of Li Feng's business. He had reminded Wade, didn't he? Chapter 40 Benefits. The portal opened directly into the Stanyuing Monastery. As soon as Li Feng crossed the portal, Ofer hurried to Li Feng, returned the Key of Solomon to Li Feng, and said, "Mr. Austin, this is yours. Spellbook, thank you for lending me this Key of Solomon so that my brothers and sisters can stay in the world and continue to fight." Li Feng, who was slightly tired, hit hockey, waved his hand and said, "You're welcome. As for the Key of Solomon, I promise to give it to you, so you can keep it for yourself." Ofer shook his head, put the Key of Solomon into Li Feng's hand, and said with a smile, "The important thing about this book is its content. We have copied the content while you left the monastery, so this book itself has we think it would be better to return the first edition of Key of Solomon with a certain amount of energy to you. This is a good collection." Ofer stretched out his hand to signal Li Feng to follow him, and said as he walked, "Some of the low-level spells I analyzed before have been inspected by the Queen. Now, the Queen invites you to the living room and prepares to hand them over to you personally." "Haha, you didn't trust me before, but now you are so polite." I think you are not giving me the spell, but you are going to ask me where I went after leaving the monastery. You stone-winged beasts like to take detours in your thinking, so just ask directly. I won't hide it. Li Feng cursed as he followed Ofer to the living room. In the living room, Liam, who was sitting on the throne, was checking a spell scroll analyzed by Ofer. When he saw Li Feng arriving, he stood up and said with a smile, "Lend the key of Solomon to Ofer. I heard that the demons who invaded the monastery were wiped out." Leonore bowed slightly and said, "Thank you for your help." She is also a queen after all, but Li Feng couldn't bear Leonore's gift, and would be beaten to death by the stone-winged beast. Li Feng turned sideways to avoid Leonore's leaning direction, waved his hand and said, "It's nothing, I was in the monastery at the time, the devil I can't escape even if I enter the monastery. So if I let Ofer use the key of Solomon, you can understand that I am protecting myself." Leonore smiled and turned to look at Gideon, who looked like a wooden man beside him. Gideon nodded slightly, picked up a silver-white flat wine flask inlaid with some broken gems from his side, walked to Li Feng and said, "This is a gift specially prepared for you by the queen as you helped the monastery defeat the devil." Leonore stretched out her hand to signal Li Feng to take the jug and said, "This jug is just a simple prop. It can ensure that the liquid in the jug will not deteriorate for a long time." Taking the jug, Li Feng looked at the magic patterns on the jug carefully. It can only be said that Li Feng became a mage for a short time and the amount of knowledge stored in his brain was too little. He could only vaguely see the content of the magic patterns. Everyone knows that holy water is used by priests to exorcise evil spirits and treat some simple diseases after reciting scriptures. Leonore looked at the wine bottle in Li Feng's hand and said with a smile, "But that is just ordinary holy water, the real holy water is more powerful, but its production is too cumbersome, and the holy water in your flask is the top quality holy water produced by the monastery." After listening to Leonore's introduction, Li Feng's first reaction was to roll his eyes. "Maiden, ordinary holy water is just mortals reciting scriptures, but you are the stone-winged beasts of angels. I know how domineering the holy water made by you chanting scriptures is. Yes, it is estimated that except for the devil Prince Nobilis, the rest of the devils will be touched by whoever. This is troublesome to make holy water, otherwise you have a lot of holy water. When faced with the invasion of the devil, just point the water gun at the devil. This is better than any sword or gun. If you are smart, just load the holy water into the fire truck and rush directly to the devil." Lao Lao squirted wildly, and Nobilis couldn't bear to be soaked in holy water. If you were smarter, researched technology, and found a way to send a large amount of holy water to the sky, and then rained down the holy water on the ground, those devils would really become sewer rats. But what do you mean by giving me holy water? The devil uses dark energy, but what about me? Don't you know that I also use dark energy and want to destroy me? Leonore seemed to see what Li Feng was thinking about and said with a smile, "I think you have some misunderstandings about holy water. The main function of the holy water in the monastery is to purify filth. The reason why it has a huge effect on devils and other evil things is because the devil's mind is inherently twisted." Leonore explained quietly, "Using holy water has nothing to do with what kind of energy you use. Energy is just energy. It has no distinction between good and evil. Just like dark energy is corrosive, is the power of faith safe? The power of faith is also dangerous. Otherwise, why don't the sacrifices to the gods use it themselves after collecting the faith, but hand over the faith to the gods, and let the gods transform it and give it back to the sacrifices in the form of mana?" Leonore pointed to the flask and said, "These holy waters can purify your mind and body, while strengthening your resistance to the corrosion of dark energy, making your journey as a mage smoother." Li Feng was not sure whether what Leonore said was true. He felt that Leonore giving him the holy water was more of a test. As long as he used the holy water and turned it into fly ash, it meant that he was an enemy, and he was fine after using it. That's the guest. After thinking about it, Li Feng opened the pottery pot, dipped his right index finger lightly in some holy water and felt the changes in himself. There seems to be no change. Li Feng glanced at the smiling Leonore, put his right index finger into his mouth and continued to feel the impact of the holy water on him. As soon as he put his index finger into his mouth, Li Feng felt that a section of his mana disappeared out of thin air, but the purity of his mana increased a little. Li Feng doesn't care when his mana disappears, because mana can be restored through meditation, but the improvement in the purity of mana is a big surprise. Normally, if he wants to have pure mana, there is no other way except to rely on meditation to grind water, but now as long as a sip of holy water will do it. After licking the corner of his mouth for such a good thing, Li Feng raised his head and prepared to drink the remaining holy water. Seeing Li Feng's movements, Gideon hurriedly stretched out his hand to stop and said, "Mr. Austin, every time you regain full mana, drink the amount of mineral water bottle cap, the effect will be better. We estimate that after you drink this pot of holy water, your mana will be reduced. The purity can be doubled." After listening to Gideon's explanation, Li Feng didn't know whether holy water could strengthen the corrosion of dark energy, but purifying mana was indeed real. Thinking that his mana tank was basically full, Li Feng raised the wine bottle and carefully drank a sip. For a long time, Li Feng closed his eyes to sense the changes in mana, and muttered, "A small sip consumes half of the mana, but the purity is improved by 1 level. Not bad, good stuff." Lifting the flask, Li Feng leaned forward slightly toward Leonore and said, "Thank you. This gift has helped me a lot. I feel sorry for it." In fact, Leonore had been carefully observing Li Feng's changes after Li Feng drank the holy water. When Li Feng's appearance showed no change, Leonore secretly breathed a sigh of relief and handed the spell scroll in his hand to Li Feng while saying, "Because of the devils, this sudden attack has caused the war to break out, so the most important thing for us now is to prepare for war. As a result, time is tight. I only analyze some low-level spell principles for you. When we are done with this period, I will analyze the remaining spells for you." Li Feng took the scroll and said, "Thank you again for your help. At present, these low-level spells are enough for me to learn for a long time. If there is nothing else, I want to go back to the room and rest." Leonore turned her head and glanced at Ofer, signaling Ofer to take Li Feng to the guest room to rest. After Li Feng's figure disappeared into the living room, Gideon looked at Leonore and said, "Don't you ask where he went after leaving the monastery." Leonore shook her head and said, "Since he drank the holy water, not only was he not harmed, but he got benefits. It means that Austin and the devil are not together, and he is not an evil person. Our priesthood is to destroy the devil. Protecting humanity, whatever Austin wants to do has nothing to do with us." Li Feng returned to the lounge and couldn't wait to sit on the bedside and open the scroll. He checked what spells there were, recorded them in the magic book, and pondered the principles of the spells. For a long time, Li Feng rubbed his eyebrows and muttered to himself, "They are said to be low-level spells, but I think some spells are better than high-level spells, such as healing. Although my spells cannot use their full capabilities due to my mana attributes, I can become an excellent surgeon with just this half-baked treatment skill. If I were to run a hospital and only treat one patient every time I raised my hand, I could probably count the money until my hand cramps. There is also a physical recovery spell. Just spending a little mana can instantly turn me from exhausted to energetic. Those beautiful men who are being kept will probably hire me to cast spells every time they do activities that are beneficial to the body and mind." After a long time, there was a knock on the door, which brought Li Feng, who had fallen into fantasy, back to reality. Li Feng wiped his saliva, stood up and opened the door, only to see Mo Du standing outside the door with a frown and a bottle of wine. Li Feng stepped aside to get out of the way, motioned for Mo Du to enter the room, and said, "What happened? You are not like the mage I remember now." "Adam is back." Mordo took a sip of wine and continued, "He told Leonore that Nobilis wanted to use Frankenstein's notes to resurrect the corpses collected earlier, preparing to resurrect thousands of evil spirits have come to Earth." Li Feng scratched his head. He had known this news for a long time, but he just didn't say it out loud. "Is this related to the fact that you made this desolate look like this? Leonore has issued a war order after knowing what happened." "It's okay. I understand. I even want to join the battle," but Mordo turned his eyes to the door, pointed to his ear, gritted his teeth and whispered angrily, "And after Adam left, I heard Lilo ordering Gideon to follow Adam. As long as Frankenstein's notebook is found, Gideon will kill Adam to prevent the means of resurrecting the corpse from falling into the hands of Nobilis." "Li Feng, what are you struggling with? The Master Modu I know will only make the same decision, right? After all, the existence of Adam violates the laws of nature." Modu was stunned, poured the wine in his hand into his mouth, and said, "But you also said that God allowed Adam to exist, and I don't see how Adam is evil. Our duty is to protect, and we have no right to deprive others of their survival." Right. End of the video. Like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories.